And next we have Latasha C.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity. I am a mother and I'm also a multi-industry entrepreneur, and I'm excited to get started on this topic. I mean, it's a hot topic right now, and I would love to give my input. I do want to point out that I have to leave at about 7:30, no later than 7:40, because I have a previous commitment. But I wanted to make sure that I did stop in and really support you.
Thank you so much for being here. I can respect that. Whenever you gotta leave, I'll understand.
Okay.
Thank
so
you.
much. I'll try to stick around the next one you have.
No
I just
problem.
want to make sure I can.
I appreciate you so much. Okay, next up we have Beth. Hi, Beth. How are you tonight?
Hi, everyone. Hi, Shnazine. How are you?
I am fantastic and winning with God.
Yay! Good. Yes. So I am Beth, and I'm a teacher. I'm a professional photographer. I also work with entrepreneurs, and yeah, I'm sad that we still have to have this conversation, but it's needed, I think.
Thank you for being here. Next up, we have Chris. Chris, how are you tonight? Let everybody know who you are.
Hey, Shnadine. Thank you so much again for having me. Hold on, I'm here for you. Thanks so much for having me. My name is Chris, also known as Coach Chris, the Purpose Mindset Coach. I empower ambitious women to break through emotional and mental barriers, eliminate self-sabotage, and to increase productivity and thrive in life and business. So I'm just grateful to be here. This is a topic that not is just hot for everybody, but one that I personally experienced. I look forward to the conversation.
Okay, yes, okay. A lot of women experience this conversation. So this is why I wanted to talk about it. Okay, and I just want to be very clear that anybody at any time can come up and voice their opinions. I go by the name of Schneiding, the Millennial Mom Money Expert. Tonight I'm hosting this room. This is the Millennial Moms and Money room over here in Clubhouse. I'm also live on YouTube, guys. So this is my second time going live on YouTube, and I'm so grateful to my YouTube family for having me. Thank you so much for this lovely community. Yeah, so let's get right into it, guys. So how cheating creates chaos in a household. How does cheating affect a mother? How does it affect a child? So let's get right into it. So we just recently heard about Mr. Derek Jackson. He is known as the so-called relationship and life coach expert. Okay, while this brother was going around, doing live events for many, many years and doing everything else, he's also an author, always giving relationship advice and relation tips. He had his own funk in his own household. So it's kind of funny how he always dogged out other brothers and talked about everybody else's relationships when his own relationship wasn't the best. So with all that being said, a brother had skeletons in his closet, skeletons in his car, skeletons in the hotel room, skeletons in the backyard. Okay, let's get into it. I know nobody's perfect. Nobody's perfect. But even me, I have my own ish. But we got to talk about how many people he dogged out, knowing that he's a married man, knowing that he has a Christian wife. And while he has a Christian wife, he was just going around just sharing himself with everybody. I mean, as a wife, that just disgusts me personally. As a woman, I can't stand it when a man cheats, because women, we ought to be valued. We are the table. We bring everything to the table. We dedicate our time, our energy, our bodies to make sure that a man is taken care of. We secure a man with our finances. We make sure that all of his needs are met. And what do we get in return? Stab in the back, a stab in the chest, stab in the side of the ribs. Why do we tolerate this? Is this tolerable? When a man cheats on you or a husband cheats on you, as a woman, as a wife, as a baby mama, do you accept it? Do you leave? Do you confront the other women? What do you do as a Christian woman or a woman, period? Gina, the floor is yours. I want to hear your opinion. I'm Schneidine and I'm done speaking.
Well, that's a lot to like dissect from the situation that's going on. But for me, it's a deal breaker. Cheating is a deal breaker for me. Because it's like you're putting me at risk. It's like when you're cheating, you break a trust. It's like, how can I trust someone who cheats, who goes out and cheats? And then when it comes to cheating, it's like how it's happening. And the fact that, it's like more for me. So if someone is cheating on me, I don't take that lightly. It depends on how it happens.
Mm-hmm.
How often is it gonna happen? So if it's the first time, I might, sort of excuse it. But if it continues to happen and I just feel like this person is not someone I should trust with my body, because with the cases of HIV and AIDS being high, in the Black community amongst Black women, it's just something that I don't really take lightly, especially with his case where he's gotten other women pregnant and he's done things unprotected with other women. So that's just a no for me.
Excuse me. I missed that part. Did you say that he had gotten other women pregnant? I didn't hear that part.
Yeah, girl, it's just a lot going on and a lot that's unfolding. So there's a third mistress that came. I think there's another woman that he had gotten pregnant and he forced her to get an abortion. They can't really find out. She refused to speak. But there's a third woman. So there's this blogger that's coming out with all this information. So the third woman, she's a surgeon. And she said in the beginning, she didn't know about the wife. So he got her pregnant and she said, she's not really looking to have any kids. And being a narc, and I understand how they are, I understand all the games that they play because I've been with two.
Okay.
So what he did, even though he was married and he has his two young kids at home and his wife, who's still with him. So he said that, and then some of the videos that he takes in his car. So the surgeon said you can see her house in the background. So
wow, that's interesting.
She said she has proof of all that. So when he was like messing around with this surgeon, there's a lot that she like unveiled. She said that he has anger issues and that he beats on the wife. That's what she said. Those are the allegations that she made. And then so when she was saying that she had gotten pregnant, she wanted to terminate the pregnancy immediately. And he was telling her, I think you should think about that issue. He was making that seem, and that's the tactic, that's the game that narcissists play. I'm pretty sure he wanted her to terminate the pregnancy, but he didn't want to act as if, I don't want this. He was just playing those mind games to make it seem like, why, you should keep the baby. But then after a while, she realized that it was all a game. He wanted to make it seem like he cared for her or whatever. But he was like so concerned and saying, you should think this through. I think you should hold off on terminating the pregnancy or whatever. But I think she ended up terminating the pregnancy. And so he gave her a gag order, I think, this week. And she said that so after he made the video with his wife, that's when she realized, you're still with her or whatever. And she even unveiled that she had intercourses with him last Friday.
Oh, come on.
So those are the shocking allegations that are being made. And it's on this blogger's page. Her page, I think it's Unwind Tasha. And so the surgeon has a lot of videos and a lot of, receipts about everything that has transpired between her and him.
Ooh, wait. Now, that's one thing. You cannot deny when someone has receipts. If they got receipts, they can show and tell it all. wow, I did not know about this pregnancy stuff. I really, oh, God bless her heart. God bless her heart.
He gave her, and she was issued a gag order from him because apparently there's a deal. So he was afraid. So there's a deal that he has with TD Jakes that's on the table, and he could lose it I'm pretty sure he's going to lose it anyway. It's everything that transpired. And then the whole him coming out, I just feel bad for his wife because
Absolutely.
he's doing that intentionally.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, because he could have said something. He could have said, you know what, babe, let's put a picture here before you go out, and make this video, because it's like she's a representation of you. You guys are one.
Yes, she's an extension of him. That's right.
Yeah. So he should have said something. He did that intentionally. So what he did there, that's a tactic to get the fire off of him. So now everybody is coming. What good man is gonna allow, knowing who his wife is and what everything that's on? I don't know if everybody's been to her page, but her page is open, and it's just frightening reading all this stuff about her. Not only is she said she was sexually assaulted. There's a lot of heavy stuff on there. She seems to have some, mental health issues. There's a lot of things going on. It's like, why would you allow, knowing all this about your wife, why would you allow her to come out to social media, knowing that social media can be pretty brutal?
Absolutely.
And when he comes out to media, he makes sure that he's well put together.
Yes.
And stuff. He did that on purpose. Because it's like, everyone's going to come for her because of how she's looking. And then he had the audacity to write a post, don't attack my wife. That's him, trying to make it seem like he's protecting her. But no, you didn't protect her at all there.
No, he did not. This is something, it's so sad. And this is the part that gets me with everything, Gina. It's this part. For me, I'm all about Christianity. I'm all about, healthy marriages. If a marriage is not healthy, if you're crying all the time, if you are sad all the time, you should seek help. You should first speak with your mate, express your thoughts, express your feelings. But if your mate is acting like he doesn't care, believe you me, he does not care. And any man that says that he loves you, he adores you, he should be kissing your rear end every day, because you damn near do everything for the person, and he shouldn't be treating you this way. So when I'm hearing all of this stuff about him being saved, and now he's saved by Jesus, and now he's not doing anymore, it doesn't sound sincere to me. I could tell when a man is being sincere about something. I can tell when a man is really hurt and he was scared straight for doing something wrong. I understand that men are not perfect, but his delivery, I didn't feel it was so authentic at all. That's my honest opinion. It's my point of view. Maybe you guys may not agree, but that's my point of view. And the way that he went about it, talking about, now we're Christians and we're going to work through our marriage. Everyone can decide to work on their marriage if they want to, if it's a marriage that's worth fighting for. Because one, the devil hates marriages. We all know this, right? As Christians. But when it gets so bad and so ugly with the disrespect, when would you put some respect to my name after being publicly humiliated and letting me go on camera knowing that I don't look the part? Oh, no. So there's a whole lot more to digest to this. Gina, thank you so much for your input. Do you have anything else to add before Latasha says her part really quick?
I'm gonna listen, and I'm gonna be leaving soon, so I'll just listen in and comment.
Perfect. Okay, no problem. Thank you, Gina, for your time. Hey, Latasha, you're up next.
Well, I'm gonna tell you a couple of things. I'm just going off just to straight the video.
Yes.
A real man. Now, let me just tell you this. I've been with my husband for 20 years.
Woo.
20
God bless
years.
you.
We have, thank you. When we have been together, we have been together 17. Now we've been married 17, been together 20.
Mm-hmm.
And prior to my marriage, just to give everybody a background, prior to my marriage, we didn't live together. We did none of that. Not judging if people do that. Please don't think that. But we did things the right way because of the type of household that he had came from, his background. And so he felt that it was important to do things the right way.
Yes.
So we dated, got engaged, a year later got married. And so here's the thing, the thing about the video that really was disturbing, if you take a look at her social media pages, long before this, she was put together.
Yes, I saw that.
She was put together. She had makeup, hair, everything. Somewhere down the line, somewhere in between, whether we just hearing about the cheating or something else, to me, something else is going on besides just the cheating. I think mentally her headspace is probably not there. Now, this is just my opinion, just based on just looking through her social media feeds and looking to her, how her whole demeanor changed somewhere in the middle of last year. So, and it could be that we're just hearing about the cheating, but she's already known about the cheating, you know? And I say this, as women, we tend to have to sit down and have conversations to say, are we going to stay with this person, or are we going to take this person back and work on our marriage? And I think we devalue ourselves in a sense, because it's like we're accepting this may or may not happen, and we're going to sit and we're going to try to figure out. I think it's unfair. I think it's truly unfair in a relationship to have to sit there all the time. And we hear this with the men. You rarely hear it with the women, but you do. And I feel like, as far as going back to her really quickly, I feel like she needs some type of intervention. Because even the way she's talking now versus back on her, way back on her social media feeds, it just seems like something is just very, like there's some mental health possibly going on there, whether it's the nervous breakdown or something going on because of her situation with her husband, and then they have 2 beautiful kids, right? So the kids aren't going to be collateral damage in all of this. It's because despite if they stay together or not, those kids are going to get old enough and they're going to have that Google or whatever's out by the time they get older, probably still Google, but they're going to be able to Google and see what happened in their lives. I mean, with their, and then there's the backlash of that. The other thing is, I'm a different breed of person. My husband and I, when we got together, I have a no-nonsense policy when it comes to cheating, because I feel like I've given you everything. I'm giving you my all. Kids, the whole nine, I'm taking care of my household and my wifely duties. The least you can do is do yours. And I'm gonna tell you this, and since I'm being real raw and real candid here.
Yes.
I told my husband, hey, if you want me to put a tutu on, a stilettos, and run around with a pink wig on, let me know. Because you don't have to step out to go get that.
Exactly.
Let me know
that part.
What it is. Right, exactly. What it is that you want from me, or what you expect, or if your desires or whatever has changed. So we have that agreement in place. Now, if he steps outside the marriage and I find out, guess what? I'm sorry, I'm gone.
Bye-bye.
Because we've already put these things in place ahead of time before I said I do. And if you take your marriage vows super serious like we do, then it is what it is. We had that agreement in place. Either one of us cheat, we're out of here. We have a now if he wants to stick around or whatever, I can't, me personally, if he cheats, I'm gone. That's just me. And if people say, oh, you don't know what you would do. No, I know my character, and I know I wouldn't stand for it, because I'm giving you my all, my love, my heart, everything. Here's the other thing too. I want to going back to him.
Yes.
The mistress. The mistress knew he was still married. I don't care what you say. Until I see divorce papers, you are still married. And you have to make that decision on whether or not, if you're not going to be with that person, then get legally separated. Because too many oftentimes, and I know some people say, well, it's easier said than done because of the income, because I get that. I totally understand that. But then that means that you guys have to have some type of agreement where you're not going to be living together. You're not going to be, something has to happen to where it's done in a way that makes sense and that's fair. So if he stepped out on his marriage and he was separated, well, they're separated. They have an understanding, and they have but he's still married, and it's a choice that you make, and you have to take that up with God later, in my opinion. But my point is, it should have been, if they weren't going to be that, it should have been done. And the mistress knew that he was still married. You can look at the social media feed, you can look at everything and know that he was still married. And so she chose to do that, and he chose to do it as well. So they both have fault, if you ask me.
Oh my goodness, yes. You see that? Thank you, Latasha. Thank you for your input, your insight, and for giving us a little bit of backstory about your personal life and your share. I appreciate it so much. Thank you. I know you got to run, but I appreciate you being here. Okay?
I could be here for 8 o'clock, but thank you guys so much. I can stick around for another 8 minutes. I just kind of want to hear some other people on the panel, but
No
thank
problem.
you guys so much.
Awesome.
Thank you, Shani. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for that. That was awesome. You guys hearing this on YouTube? Oh my goodness, they are just bringing the heat. Yes, they are. Next up, we have Beth. Beth, the floor is yours. Please share your thoughts, opinion on this Mr. Derek Jackson situation, your own personal life experience, and then whatever else you want to share.
Yes. So, hi everyone again, and happy Thursday. So, one of the things that I'm thinking about is that, well, I am not married. I have yet to be married. But I have been in relationships, and, like long term. And I had this relationship back in my 20s that, and I don't know what his dating relationship was with his wife. I don't know if he was stepping out prior to the marriage even or not.
Most likely he was.
One man. I mean, yes, I would, but I don't want to assume.
Right.
Because I don't really know him like that, but I agree, probably most likely he was. So I was dating someone, and I knew he was saving up for a ring for me. And he was planning on marrying me, but I didn't really want to marry him. And then I also cheated on him. And so I ended it because I knew I was not going to be faithful to him. So I think that, he would have, and actually at one point, we did try to like work the thing out. And when I say I cheated on him, it wasn't even like a big deal. I literally kissed another man. It wasn't even like I cheated on him with anything more serious than that. But I knew that so I feel like a lot of, this is my opinion, like I said, I have yet to be married, but I think a lot of what happens in marriage, similar to even what Latasha was speaking about, happens even before marriage. So like, if things are not right before, they're not going to get better during. So, when I was not liking what I was seeing in myself, I knew it wasn't really going to get any better with this particular person. And so to cut them loose, it's better to, let that person have a, happy life. I also think that, just having, had relationships, it can be hard, and you have, different ideas about different things. So, it's kind of a death to self, even in, a dating situation, much less marriage. So I think kind of practicing self-discipline. So I feel like before getting married, it's important to find out things that partner you're going to be with. What is it that they do? How do they discipline themselves in their finances? I would say even like maybe fasting together. Like giving up food, that's kind of hard. Or it doesn't necessarily have to be food. It could be like chocolate, something. But like having conversations with that person that you're considering marriage with, like how do you discipline yourself? What is your self-discipline like? Because if this person is always giving into impulse consistently, and they don't have, the means to, control themselves, or, I understand things happen.
Yes.
But, the likelihood of a long-term successful marriage without the person, stepping out on you, much less, on a habitual basis, I feel like decreases. So I think it's so important to find out and have conversations like, what are your spending habits? What, how do you fast? Like, what's your prayer life? Like, what's your morning routine? Just figuring out, like, what their discipline is. I think that also then will relate to, how the marriage is going to progress down the road. And the other thing that just pisses me off is I don't understand why this culture, the woman has to stand by her man physically after he's screwed up. This is like so many times how many times have we seen politicians and they get up and they make this speech and like, I'm so sorry, I cheated on my wife, I hired a prostitute, whatever crap it is.
Yes.
And their wife is standing next to them. Why does the woman have to be there? Look, I am not part of some man's mistake. And whether or not I choose to stay with him and work it out or not, it's not any public person's business. It's no one's business. I do not need to stand by my man physically as he apologizes to the world, to his business colleagues, to his followers, to whoever it is. I just think it's ridiculous, and I don't understand why this is a trend. And I think I would like to see it stop. I think as women, particularly, even in Christian situations, we're taught to forgive, but forgiveness is release of debt, right? You're releasing someone from something they owed you,
Right.
faithfulness, whatever it happens to be, but in this case, like faithfulness. But you still, that doesn't mean you don't put boundaries. There's still boundaries that then need to be established. And in fact, if reconciliation is going to happen, even more strict boundaries than before for however long of a period of time, maybe for a lifetime. But I don't get this. This is one thing that I know I will not ever do is stands next to my man while he apologizes for his behavior to me. No, I'm not doing that publicly. Absolutely not. And I think, in terms of, would I leave or not? Yes, definitely leave. Would I leave permanently? It would depend on the situation. I'm not going to commit to one thing or another. It is possible for marriages to be restored. I know people that they've, had really bad things happen and, they've made it as a couple, but it takes years. It takes a lot of time. And, in this particular situation, it does not look like healing has happened on the part of either person. So it's, for me, frightening to see, because it seems like it's still a situation that's very abusive. But like I said, I'm not part of it, so I don't know. But from what I see, it's very scary. And I would say that is all I have to say. I'm done speaking.
Beth, well, thank you so much for your share. That was super, super great. The reason why I'm saying it's great because you're being vocal, you're expressing how you feel, you're expressing your own personal experience, and you're digesting this Mr. Derek Jackson situation and, the situations of staying in a marriage if it's broken. And I mean broken by broken heart and everything. And you shared with us your own personal experience with, cheating on a guy or kissing a guy and then having to move forward and move on without him. Life is crazy, and everything that we do in life, it's a choice. You choose to stay in a marriage. You choose to stay in a relationship. You choose to stay in an abusive, verbal or physical abusive relationship. Everything we do in a relationship is a choice. For me, it's to be or not to be. We're not playing none of those games, okay? And with that being said, Miss Chris is in the building. She is phenomenal, and she just recently said she has experienced some of these things. So I am ready to hear what you have to say through your own personal experience. Please give us your point of view on this Mr. Derek Jackson situation and anything else you'd like to share at this time. The floor is yours, Chris.
Thank you again so much for having me. Okay, so I really appreciate all of you ladies and your opinion. I think that mine is a little bit different. And so let me start off with this whole Derek Jackson situation. I'm gonna be real, I could care less. I'm not even gonna lie to you. And the reason is because, I think we have a tendency to uphold people who are in the limelight. Your pastor, somebody, it's his ministry. So he put himself in a very bad situation because you're pretending to be something you're not. But the reality is, he's a human. He's a human being. And
Exactly.
as far as what you all are saying about the young lady, and her looking homely, she's also a woman in her own right. And whether or not she's going through some mental and emotional things, and I don't know, we can't assume this man is abusing her. And there might be mental. My first marriage was an abusive marriage. All right, so I'll get to my stuff in a minute. But we don't know the situation, and maybe mentally and emotionally she is drained. Maybe that was, at the end of the day, it was her choice to show up looking like that. So I think that a lot of people are creating a lot of opinions about something that they really don't have a right to make an opinion about. Not necessarily a right. We can do whatever we want, right? We all have a right to our own opinion, but I don't see why he's so worthy of our conversation. But I do love the topic of how cheating creates chaos. Because when you have a family, and especially as a Christian, I think that it's very important for us to look at the damage that it can do. And so let me speak from my experience. My first marriage was very abusive. And I mean that in every sense of the word. Was I being pummeled and did I have black eyes? No. But it was physically abusive. And it was just more of the throwing around type of stuff and that kind of overly aggression. But it was a lot of verbal abuse, spiritual abuse, mental abuse, and then I experienced a lot of cheating. I probably only caught my ex-husband cheating 2 times, right? But I was assuming it was happening more than that, right? So anyway, I said that to say I'm no longer in that situation. I really had to learn how to love myself enough to walk away from it. Amen. And not just for myself, for my daughter, and also for my ex-husband. Because what ends up happening is if you stay with a person that has diminished you for so long, you begin to become very bitter, and then you no longer have respect for them. And so because I respect marriage, right, and this is later, because I wouldn't say that my first marriage I was completely saved or living for Christ or anything like that. But as I began to know the Lord coming towards the end of our marriage, I recognized that I was doing more damage to him as a man and as a black man, because I would degrade him with my words. I would fight back. I would do all these things. And at that point, it became so toxic from both of our perspectives that it wasn't even worth remaining on, it wasn't healthy for anybody. So I had enough sense to leave. But this is what I'll say. Even after being cheated on in my first marriage, even after being abused, I'm a Christian and I honor marriage and I honor God. And so when I come before the Lord and I make a commitment, a lifelong commitment, I'm not saying I will stand for abuse, but I can honestly say today, if my husband were to cheat on me, I would stay with him. I think that it's very challenging. We can't just sit here and assume in our minds, if someone ever cheats on me, I'm done. Well, then who are you honoring in your marriage? Because he was a human. If I messed up in my marriage, God forbid I make the mistake of cheating on my husband, I would hate for him to just say, hey, my mind's made up and I'm leaving. Because we do have a family, because we do have something. Of course the person is worth more. They don't deserve that. Now it becomes a habitual thing. Sure, I get it. If you're in an abusive situation, I get it. But there are a lot of ebbs and flows in marriage. And you can't tell me if you spend 50 years of your life with somebody that you're never going to come to a time where you're going to be challenged. The enemy comes to steal, kill, and destroy. The enemy comes to bring division. And there will be times in your marriage where you will experience that. There is no perfect situation. So it would be really unrealistic of us. It would be really, I'm more afraid of people who say that this is a non-negotiable in any situation, unless you're trying to kill me or take my life or something that's dangerous like that, or there's, like I said, continuous abuse. But I always believe that God can do absolutely anything. And yes, both people have to be willing to do the work. But you're not going to see me as a woman of God saying I'm going to just walk away from my marriage and let the enemy win. That's what he wants. He wants to destroy families. And so I think we just have to be very, very careful about the decisions that we make before we ever even. And so I think, to me, it's healthier to make a decision that no matter what I face with my husband, I have enough strength and I have enough will and I have enough prayer warrior in me to know that we will get through that thing. And so, and not just because my husband, but because I came before the Lord and I honor him. And so I've learned to do my marriages unto the Lord. And so what I do, I don't necessarily do just to make my husband happy. When my husband is not being likable, when my husband, I feel like, I'm sure we all feel unappreciated at times, right? I feel like there are moments like that for everybody. And so, because again, nobody's perfect and everybody often is searching for their own needs to be met. If you're not extremely intentional all the time about meeting your partner's needs, then everybody is looking, if I'm not serving my husband and he's not serving me, then now I'm looking always for my needs to be met instead of being intentional about serving his needs, right? And so that has to be a mutual effort and it takes practice. If you have not built up that practice, then it's easy for people to internalize and begin to focus more on their needs, and that's how people mess up. Because if my husband is spending a lot of time at work and he ends up meeting a co-worker who happens to be a female, who happens to love some of the same things he loves, who he's spending time with, I can't think in my mind that nothing's possible. And that's why we have to be intentional on the front end. But if he were to fall short, how dare I say, I'm just going to up and leave because he made a mistake. And so I think we just have to be very careful how we address this situation, how we look at marriage. Yeah, it's huge. It can have a huge effect on the family dynamic. And that's what I'd rather talk about. Because once that thing has actually happened, now we have to figure out as women of God, as leaders, right? And not necessarily the head of our house, but as leaders and as believers, how we go to God and address the situation. What do we need to now do to get help in our marriage? Are we getting therapy? Are we very intentional about making sure we're not having huge fights about this thing? Am I letting my kids know? Because a lot of people, women or men, they want to bring their kids into it. You know what your daddy did? You know what your mama did? Because they're bitter. And so I would rather talk about how this really affects the family dynamic and how we have to be intentional on the front end to avoid the situation. But if it does happen, how do we come together to heal it? Because at the end of the day, our commitment that we made is lifelong. And especially if there are children involved, it's not worth just stripping them away from that. Because again, I came from abuse and it was very hard to bring my oldest daughter away from my ex-husband. It was very challenging. And it hurt her. And she went through a lot because of that. And so tearing up a family is not worth it if you don't have to. And I think we should be more focused on that. This is Chris, and I'm done speaking.
Well, there you have it, Chris. You said it all. Thank you for your share. I love your point of view on the family values. Some women agree with it, some do not. Of course, the whole Christian value thing, I definitely agree with you on that, but it's also with an extent. If you have a husband that's a serial cheater who never stops, no matter how many times you try to work things out, no matter how many times you warn him. And first of all, ladies, if a man is a grown-ass man, we don't need to keep warning or threatening a man to be faithful to you, okay? Because we are the bomb. We shouldn't have to keep telling a man, you need to be faithful to me. He should know that he needs to be faithful to you, right? If he hasn't, if he's too distracted, then he's not a man. He's a little boy. He's what the Haitians would call a bébé grandi, okay? He's not a fully grown man. He's a little boy. So Chris shared with us that she has gone through this in her marriage, and over time, she decided to leave because it was really toxic. But she also had her daughter involved. And with you having children involved, it does create chaos. And that's the point that I am going to digest and get into a little bit more, because we will talk about how the chaotic household dynamics change, especially with children, with finances, and everything else in between. So Chris, thank you so much for your share. I really love your perspective. Thank you so much. And there's more, so please don't go yet.
So, can I jump in here for a second?
Yes, please.
Toy. Chris, I think that your perspective on it is very, I was sitting here thinking about, you came from, experiencing abuse and things of that nature, and so have I, prior to my marriage. And I definitely understand where you're coming from. You have some very valid and good points when you are a Christian woman and your marriage is supposed to be forever. So I commend you on really sharing that and really sharing that perspective, for the, for everyone, everyone in the room. And I think that it is important to really take a look. One of the things my husband and I do, we actually try to communicate with each other as much as possible. And we have this thing, I don't like him every day and he doesn't like me every day, but we love each other every day, And I think that that's important in that communication and that honesty with each other. Like I said, I'm a different breed, and I think it's because of my background that I have that policy in place, but we've agreed to that prior to our marriage. But I think, Chris had just some very, very solid and advice and expertise. So this is Latasha. I'm done speaking.
Thank you so much, Latasha. And I just want to say really quickly, I really love that you talked to your husband and told him, if you want me to go around that pink tutu, I can't get that pink tutu and high heels out my head. So I really love that. And that's part of that, what you said, healthy communication dynamic. And it's necessary. But even then, people fall short. We could be giving him the world. Sometimes people cheat. It has nothing to do with me. It's not because I'm not giving him what he needs, or it's not because he's not giving me what, it's because of me and my choices and how I'm feeling. That's why people cheat. It has nothing to do with the partner.
Right. And the other thing is, I said this earlier, I say what I do, but you never know until it truly hits you right then and there. When it hits you, we got this agreement. Yeah, we're both gonna walk away, but you don't know. And when you're in it and you're in it to forever, you don't know what the circumstances is and what you might do. So you absolutely. That is true. That's true. I say that, but I don't know.
That's my point. And that's why I say we have to be careful, because we really just don't know until we're in that situation. But that's why we have to prepare in advance.
Yes.
And we're talking from a Christian perspective. Like, you have to pray together too. You have to really sit down and pray. My husband and I, we pray for each other every single day, together and apart. And I think really pulling that togetherness and having those Christian values and those way of thinking, like I said, and I said to each his own, because I don't want anybody to get offended, to each his own. Like, we didn't even live together beforehand. He was out of my house and gone, and I would come visit him, and it was weird because we, everybody's like, you guys are gonna live together. We're like, no, but it just having the morals and the values and having that in place and really being together. Together is the key. And I know it sounds so cliche saying communication, but that is the truth. That is the God honest truth. Communicating back and forth of what you like, what you don't like. Simple things. Simple things. Like, I had no idea, you may have no idea your husband doesn't like, X, Y, Z, or vice versa. But if you talk to each other, you'll know. You'll know. Like, I'm going to give you, you probably kill me for this one, but my husband, I would go and I would buy lemonade. This is just so simple. I would go buy lemonade and I'll put it in the refrigerator. And I'm like, dang, you guys aren't drinking this lemonade. I'm buying, lemonade. I'm making lemonade and nobody's drinking lemonade. I swear, probably about 5 or 6 years in, he goes, when have you ever seen me drink lemonade? And I'm like, oh. And he's like, I don't like lemonade. I never have, and it was, this is like 5 or 6 years in, and I'm buying lemonade. So the communication really, truly has to be there. And, really, really, honestly. And I'm done speaking because I know Toy has to go.
Thank you so much, you guys. That was amazing. I really appreciate that. But it's true. We have to pay close attention to our mate and what our mates want and what they like and don't like. So I definitely agree with that. Thank you for the shares. So next up, we have a special guest, Toy. I definitely want to hear your perspective on relationships. Derek Jackson, if you have any insight you want to add to that and your personal experience. Thank you. Oh, okay. Okay. Next up, we have Tia. Is that right? Please let me know.
Yes, it's Tia. So I just wanted to add, I know we're speaking a lot about Christian values, but I think too often, especially as Black women, that we enter into these relationships and we're unequally yoked. So before a man is going to commit to you, he's going to commit to God. And I think that Derek Jackson came speaking on the platform, you know, and it seemed like his wife was more committed to God than he was, and they were unequally yoked. So that's all I had to say. Thank you.
I agree with you on that. Thank you so much for sharing. Yes, everyone has an opinion on this, and we're having more opinions on this because it's real life. Real life things happen, things that are unexpected, things that are expected. And the matter of the heart is that hearts are broken in the process of one person being selfish in the relationship and not caring about the other person. So I appreciate your share today, Tia. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm done speaking.
Okay. Okay, we have Toy back in the on the stage. Did you want to say anything?
I'm sorry, somehow I kept getting moved back to the audience. It wasn't me on purpose. I was just, but thank you for this conversation. Thank you for inviting us up to say, to have a few words. I'm just gonna start breaking down real slow. First, just the topic is how cheating creates chaos. And then we're speaking about Derek Jackson. I would say first, chaos existed before the cheating.
Amen.
There was somebody troubled, confused, broken in the both or one person in the marriage. Chaos already existed there. Chaos opened the door.
Mr. Goodheart and Camille.
And so it's like a 1-2 punch. If there's a hedge opened, anything is bound to enter in. And so it could have been adultery, it could have been all types of stuff that kind of entered in. And so the affair or whatever is happening is just a byproduct of what was already existing inside each individual, hence the marriage. That's one point. Derek Jackson, his situation is just one that you see all the time. Bad for the brother that he's the one on the front page today, because to a degree it's merciless. I think for a lot of women in particular, we're triggered when we see things like this. Like the sister, he did what? Huh? Oh my gosh! Oh, like we all coming for him. And to I think Sissy's point, and I know someone else said it. Like, yes, get it, got it.
Now, don't nobody else call me Christy.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
I'm sorry.
We obviously know each other now.
Right. I'm so sorry. But like, we can't leave out the humanness of him, and the humanness is not an excuse for him. Right? Definitely not doing that. And I'm going to move a little bit further into that in just a moment. The thing that I am most concerned about, again, as someone else said, is his family. And what family looks like to people who want a family. And how the perception now is to young women and young men who desire marriage, and now look at that mess that is happening to say, oh, I don't want that. Oh, if that's going to happen, I might as well stay single, because marriage is a beautiful thing. My husband and I coach in this area and different things like that, because this was us. I was the first person in our marriage, 2.5 years in, to have an affair in my marriage. And I know usually it's the man, and had I been, maybe that's why I have mercy for Derek, because I know what it feels like to be broken. I know what it feels like to be broken and don't know how you're going to be fixed, and need some of Jesus and all of Jesus coming to do this thing for you. Then, 10 years later, because we did not heal correctly, my husband had an affair. Right? So we got the 1-2 punch. My husband actually, DR, that's my husband right there. And I'm very blessed to say we just celebrated 26 years of marriage.
Yes, Lord. Hey, Miss Perry.
Someone said, you know, I understand. For me, coming to in our marriage, I was 19 years old. My deal breaker was abuse, right? So if you put your hands on me, boy, in a word, it wouldn't necessarily have a discussion, because I'm done. And thankfully, that hasn't been tested. Even after me having the affair, it wasn't tested. Because I probably would put my hands on myself had I been in the beginning, right? I just wasn't at that maturity level. But he didn't. So that hasn't been tested. But him saying, and he can speak to this himself, took a lot for him to say. And now, let's fast forward 10 years after my affair, he had an affair. Some would have said the fact that I say, well, you should have stayed because you cheated on him first. Well, that's not the place I was in, right? Because I felt like I had grown, matured, and became the woman that I needed to be. for that not to even happen in the future. But to make a long story short, it took a lot of healing. It took a lot of self-work. It took a lot of introspection to see that each of us were broken, and broken people will break a marriage, right? Because marriage is comprised of two people. And you can't have a marriage without the two people. So the marriage is made up of the two people. And once that thing, our hedge is broken, if there's someone inside the marriage that is broken, you have opened the door to you have no idea what.
Mm-hmm.
You don't even know what's inside of each other sometimes until a thing is pricked, right? Right. So sometimes you got some generational things that you don't even know that's inside of you, and it's not triggered until a situation happens. So your mother's stuff, your grandmother's stuff, your great grandmother's stuff, your great grandfather's stuff, all that's sitting up inside of you that if deliverance hasn't occurred, that just might show up in your marriage, and you know how, when, where, how, or what's going to show up.
So
I
true.
think we have to extend grace. We have to pray for that woman, for that man, and for all the women, because what you're seeing now is just a manifestation of people's brokenness. And you can't judge another man's brokenness because we are all broken, and you don't know what you're going to do if the right situation presents itself.
Yeah.
And I'm Toy, and I'm done speaking.
Yes. Oh, wow. You done broke down a lot, Miss Toy. Thank you for sharing. We really, really respect what you said, because unfaithfulness happens on both sides. It's not just the man. I have to say that, but it's not often that you hear it's a woman. So I do appreciate how you are very transparent. That takes a lot to say publicly. And I really appreciate your share today. I don't know if your husband, Mr. DR, wants to say anything. I do know that Mindy was next, but since we are talking on the same thing, Mindy, I hope you wouldn't mind if Mr. DR has something to say. The floor is yours.
Hello, thank you, ladies, so much for this conversation. And first of all, I want to just confirm, I love this woman with everything that I have. And let me tell you something. I want to commend and give props to Sister Latasha for her humility, because I was coming after you. No, because, it's very true. Speaking, just, from the cuff, and that's, how my wife and I are when we share our story. We're just very, we don't pull punches, because we've both been on the receiving end of such a devastating act by the person you're entrusting with the best parts of you.
Yes.
And so that being said, my wife and I, we are both considered in the eyes of others, quote unquote, high quality people, the whole 9 yards. And when we came into the marriage, we took those same positions. We had our lines in the sand, of what we would and would not do. But I love the fact that we're in a Christian room, because we can go there, right? It affords me a luxury to go straight to the Word of God for our examples of us not knowing ourselves. The Word of God tells us our hearts are evil and above all desperately wicked. Who can know it, right? And it's very easy. Now, mind you, I'm not coming for you, Sister Latasha, because you already, show profound character. I'm really emphasizing the point, because we were those people that you slip up, I'm done. All right. I'm fine. I'm good looking. I'm well employed. Right. I got my stride. I got my strength. Don't need you. A bus comes in 10 minutes. Right. That was the mentality. But once your lives are so intricately intertwined, right, and you have this profound history, all these layers, when that thing hits you, take our word for it. You don't know what to do. And that's the truth. All of your certainty, all of your stances, all of your confidence, right out the window. Right out the window, as if it were never there. And I had no shortage of that. I at the time, when I found out my wife was, had the affair, when she confessed it, I was in the throes of our youth. You know what I mean? I had a great job as a Chicago police officer. I was decorated. I was respected. I'm working all these jobs. I started modeling, right? My family is fine. We finally got off of welfare. We hit our stride. You know what I'm saying? And this hit me and it broke me. It broke me in a way that I can't even explain, right? And just to give a little backstory, you know, when the years passed and I ended up sleeping on her, I had thought I was okay. But what I had done was I suppressed, right? I never allowed myself adequate time to heal because I was ready to get back to normal. She was repentant, right? I had this family. We had started building this life. The thought of losing it all just did not appeal to me. You know, I had already been past the stage of sowing wild oats, so going out the dating scene didn't appeal to me in any capacity. You know, so I just suppressed, all right, we're going to get past this and move on. You know, and when my affair happened and I crushed her, it was not as traumatizing for me as it was for her, but I saw what it did to her. Mm-hmm. And I was not without empathy, right? And one of the things that I think that Brother Jackson suffers from is a profound lack of empathy. You know, when it's funny, I didn't know who this dude was until last week. Okay, real talk. I didn't know who this cat was until last week. And my wife and I, we navigate this space. And it wasn't until we had a consultation with a brand strategist and she asked our opinion on this dude. And so I went, this is before all this stuff hit the fan. This was like a couple of days before all this stuff hit the fan, right? And so I looked at this dude and I went down his timeline, so I listened to a couple of his videos. And I literally said it out loud because I have a tendency to talk to myself when I'm alone. Don't judge me. And I said, this dude, he ain't real. And I said that, and then a few days later hit the fan. I asked my wife, I said, what was that? She said, because you used to be that. Mm-hmm. See, there's a pure language that was happening that I was tapping into that I wasn't fully aware of. But even in being that, my heart hurt for him. Now, not because of the act, but because of the state of the man committing the act. I know what that feels like. Mm-hmm. I know what it feels like to try to find value with your man parts, trying to find identity with a persona and not being real, right? And so going into this, I'm like, they didn't stand a chance. They didn't stand a chance. Because if we take the word God as our template and he is supposed to be leading, a broke man on crutches can't lead anybody. He's limping along, but he's putting forth the faces as if he's got all the answer. And that was his most profound error. Come on now, preach. You know, that was his most profound error, right? It's pretentiousness, right? Thinking that, you know, I don't have to live it, but I can give it. Mm-hmm. That doesn't work. No. Especially in today's social media environment, right? Where people are vetting out authenticity. Right? And it wasn't like 20 or 30 years ago when a player in the game, he could hide his game because there was no 6 degrees of separation. Mm-hmm. Folks walked around having whole families on the side, right? That was destroyed the moment we became interconnected in this profound way. And so now moving forward, all this revelation came forward. I heard the video, what happened last, you know, with the new woman. I'm looking at the sister and my heart breaks. My heart breaks because my wife said something very profound, and I'm going to go ahead and give up the mic. You know, we don't realize how far this ripple effect extends. See, we're focused on Derrick Jackson because he is at the center of it, right? Mm-hmm. But just like we drop any pebble into a pond, the further you go out, that ring gets bigger. And so there's kids, there's siblings, there's parents, there's brothers and sisters, there's associates that are all going to reap a very bitter harvest from this broken man. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, I'm inclined, you know, is as much as it pains me to see another brother fall in such a public way, right? Not saying that it's undeserved, I still pray for this man that there's some level of mercy bestowed upon him from our Father, and that he gets his life together. So at the very least, he can be a cautionary tale of correction and redemption for his children. That's it.
Wow. I just want to jump in and say, I'm so glad, DR, you did not come for me. Thank you. But this was amazing. I mean, this is, wow. You guys, this is an awesome room. This is an awesome room.
Thank you so much, DR, for your share tonight. That was very, very epic. I love how you came in and said, I love this woman, period. This is how a man should be talking about his woman, adoring her, worshiping her, honoring her publicly, not degrading her, calling her names, and putting her name through the mud like some other men do. So I appreciate you, DR, for what you said. I understand people are human, you make mistakes, but you guys decided together that your marriage was worth fighting for. Not everybody could say that. So the fact that you guys have tested the times for over 20 years, I commend you for that, because that shows that that love is real, that you guys decided to get through this together and there was no negotiations with that. So thank you so much. That's beautiful. Mindy, I think you have the floor if you're still here.
Thank you so much for allowing me in your space. And I
Thank you for being here.
love everything that I've heard so far. And I too, as DR said, I am so grateful that we're able to come at this from the Christian perspective, because there is very few pains in this life as painful as being the betrayed. Mm-hmm. And I hope I don't slaughter her name, but I believe it's Denia Jackson. If I'm not pronouncing it correctly, please do correct me. But Denia Jackson is most likely going through the most painful experience of her life. I've been in the after 26 years of marriage, I found out that my husband was having an affair, and I have been in the affair recovery space now for 4.5 years, and I work as a betrayal recovery coach. And I also am an affair recovery facilitator for a Christian organization. And I lead groups. I've been leading groups, probably 24 to 36 women a week for 2.5 years. Wow. And I can tell you, it is a pain you cannot imagine if you haven't experienced it. It's a genuine trauma, a post-infidelity stress disorder that is akin to trauma. And it's devastating. It is absolutely brutal and devastating. And I remember when I felt the exact same way as everyone else has said, that would be my line. I mean, no question, I'm out. Mm-hmm. And when I found out that my spouse was cheating, he was coming into the room, and I was going to confront him with what I'd found. And so I said to him, we're going to have one of the most important conversations in our marriage that we've ever had. And because it is so important, we can't afford to have it wrong. So we're going to say a prayer first. So we said a prayer, and in that prayer, I heard plain as day, walk with him. Walk this path with him. Mm-hmm. And it was, my eyes flew open. That's how loud the voice was in my head, that I physically reacted. And it has been 4.5 years of the most brutal experience. I didn't have an immediately repentant husband. I had a husband who pursued his affair partner as much as he possibly could for years. Mm. And I remember calling my aunt, who had been through something similar, and she gave me the best advice I'd ever had. And she said, Mindy, you're stunned, you're devastated, mm-hmm. You're surprised, but God is not. God isn't running up around in the heavens saying, oh no, we didn't see this coming.
Mhm.
What in the world are we going to do? We don't have a plan. Instead, he's saying, now we've known that this is going to happen. And we knew that today was the day she was going to find out. And we have prepared. And everything that Mindy is going to need is set in her path. I need the best angels to go down and be with her and sit with her as I ask her to do the hardest thing that I'm ever going to ask of her, and that is to walk with him as he walks a very chaotic and unpleasant path that will, in many ways, break both of them. And I need you to walk her to all those places we have prepared for her, and to all those people and all those resources. And in the most pain and in the most chaos I ever have felt in my life, I never felt closer to God. I fell in love with God in a whole new way. And I began to realize how childish my relationship with God had been before this. How much I had spent time loving my husband, my children, my life, and thinking of God as like the magic lamp that if I rub hard enough, I'm going to have this prosperity gospel, I'm going to get what I want. But I loved my Father in heaven more than I can tell you. Because in the middle of chaos, I found clarity and I found peace, and it was with him. And it's an amazing thing what can happen and the changes that can come slowly over time. But to be able to say to another person who's going through this, if I could in any way run to Denia Jackson and put my arms around her and say, oh, my dear, I can't barely imagine what you're going through because you're going through it in front of the world.
Mm-hmm.
But it will be months before you sleep. It will be months before you can eat. It will be months before you can breathe like a normal person all day long. And I hope you have the right people around you. But she is going to need the right people. And I'm prayerful that God has set for her the people she's going to need. My name's Mindy, and I'm complete.
Wow, Mindy.
I'm about to.
Go ahead.
Oh, so
go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, I'm about to hop off. I have a village meeting at 7:30. But I did want to say really quickly to Miss Mindy, thank you so much for sharing your story. First of all of you have been wonderful. I appreciate this room and this conversation because I think it's one that we definitely need to have, married or not, just as Christians talking about relationships, because it's important to understand how to deal with one another in these situations and how it can affect the family. So I know the conversation is going to continue and be great. But I wanted to hop in because what Miss Mindy was just saying about the wife. I don't know her name, so I can't. I don't even, like I said. When I said earlier I didn't care about the situation, I didn't mean I don't care about the people. I don't care how much energy we're putting into their business is what my point was earlier, because it's more about what has happened and why we need to look internally for our own lives and our own situations before we go judge someone else. And so I just wanted to add to what Minnie said about the wife, and that we don't know like she might be a woman of God, because you guys mentioned that she's the woman of faith.
Mm-hmm.
So her standing by her man may not be, because I know Miss Beth said, we're tired of this. Why does every woman have to stand by her man? I agree that it's a societal standard, or it's expected, but I think that should be the standard for men and women of God in general. If the relationship, again, like Toy and DR, if the relationship is worth it and you know who you honor, there should be no question on either side. I just really want to pray for her and uplift that woman, because where she is, we know how fine she is on a regular basis. Who cares that she showed up looking however she was looking because of what she's going through? But it takes strength, whether or not her husband is in his right mind, whether or not, we don't know the back end of the relationship, but it takes strength to show up. And she's not caring about imagine that she wasn't at the time caring about how anybody was thinking about how she looked, because she's not thinking about that.
Mm-hmm.
She's just trying to get through. and saying, I do stand by my husband. And I just think that we have to be a lot less judgmental of her, because I see so many people dogging her about how she looks.
Yeah.
And it takes strength to do what she's doing. People are trying to make accusations and assumptions about whether or not she's being coerced into it. We don't know that. But if she is a woman of God, and she's staying in faith at this point, and God hasn't told her to leave her husband yet, for her to be where she is, we should just honor her for that. And not judge so much about how she looks, because I don't care how she looked 5 weeks ago on her social media, because it doesn't matter. So I don't know. It just, what Miss Mindy said made me think about that. So I just wanted to share. Y'all are amazing. I appreciate this room, and I hope it goes wonderful. I have to prepare for my meeting, but Nadine, thank you so much for inviting me here. And Natasha, Beth, Mindy, all of you wonderful ladies, thank you for allowing me to share space with you tonight. Y'all have a good night.
Chris, thank you for taking my invitation, being here. I appreciate you. Have a good night. Bye-bye. Wow.
You know, I wanted to say, you know, this was just amazing. And I wanted to say, you know, I think in just really in clarification too, for at least from my standpoint as well, I don't think when you think about looking back, and I want to address the social media issue with her page, I think it's really more or less like what we are seeing. Like, I don't care what somebody has on. I'm a jeans and tennis shoe girl all day long, so I can care less what somebody has on. But I think the look, I think, is what people are saying, like the hurt is what we're probably seeing. You know, is what people are probably seeing. The hurt in her, the destruction around her life is what we're seeing in her face. So I want to be clear, for me and my standpoint is more or less when you say how she looked, 5 weeks ago or 6 weeks ago, whatever, on her page, it's like you can see the sadness, at least to me, in my opinion. That's just my opinion. So I think when it comes across and you see that and you see the hurt, but I think what we are recognizing and seeing, or at least I guess this is just an opinion, is the hurt and the dismay of her relationship. The other thing I wanted to say is I feel like this shouldn't have been done in a public setting. So publicly. I understand he's a public person, and I think I don't know if it was Chris or I don't know if it was Ben. Him apologizing on his own, it might have been Toy, but you guys let me know who it was. But him apologizing on his own. Okay, thanks. Him apologizing on his own was great, but after that, retreat and work on your marriage at that point is what I would feel. And I don't know if Toy and if DR is still in the room, no, he's gone. If Toy, if you have any, can speak upon that, because it was so public. And this is why, she has enough to worry about. And now people are talking about her clothes and her hair and whatever the case may be. Mm-hmm. It seems like public apology is a public figure. And then, and he's supposed to be a relationship expert.
Yes.
And halfway and settle down out of the public eye and fix whatever needs to be fixed in your marriage. And I would like to pose that to someone else on the panel, or maybe Toy, because she had mentioned something similar. This is Latasha.
Hi, Latasha. Yes, you are exactly right. It was in our opinion that he did owe. First of all, his first apology should have been to his wife and to his family. Being a public figure, I feel like he did owe an apology to those he spoke to, right? So I feel like, I know someone that we were very close to used to always say, you can't fall in the bedroom and give in the kitchen, right? If you're going to be the one who is a professed expert in this area, you're speaking life into all these people's lives, then you have that same responsibility when you fall, just to say, hey, y'all, I failed, and show them how to get up. But immediately after you've done those things, the very next thing that you do, you go into damage control, and you try to mitigate as much casualties as you can. So you shut your doors down, right? So any outside influence at that point has no opportunity to get in. You are in complete healing mode and trying to put things back together. You don't go into surgery, right, and lay on the table and they open you up and you stand there and allow everybody to see, because that's infection going to enter in. You shut everything down and you try to make the atmosphere as conducive to healing as possible, and you two do the work. Are you going to add anything?
Well, I agree with all of that. Yes. Okay. So let's talk about how he is a public figure and faking the funk with all of this stuff. For years, this man has gone about doing events, breathing life falsehoods to women, men, about men, treating their women's like queens and how you should honor them. Him having video clips of other men, proposals, all of this other stuff, but yet he was doing his own stuff. And like I said before, I understand that because he's a man. Men, he's a living flesh. He has feelings. He wants to have, I guess, hamburger on the side or whatever it is that they say with married men. However, this man had skeletons in his closet, in his car, in hotel rooms, in his backyard. It was just a disgusting act because it was done publicly. Now, if he was not a so-called public figure, then nobody would care. I mean, we don't really care. We're just speaking on it because it's in our face right now, because we all have our own issues. We're all dealing with our own dramas in our own personal lives. But it's just a conversation I wanted to have based on relationships, based on how cheating creates chaos in a household financially, which is something that we're about to dissect in a minute. But I just wanted to share your perspectives on everything, because this guy, he was just a disappointment as a public relationship expert, because now he said publicly while he was holding his wife's hand in the video, if you guys don't want to support me, I could understand. Why would you say that? Because you know that you have publicly disappointed everyone who believed in you, everyone who was supporting you financially with your books, everyone who was supporting you with all of this rah-rah of how you should treat your queen in public and private. So that's what I wanted to share now. I'm Schneidine and I'm done speaking.
Hello, I'm Chastity, and I want to say I want to piggyback off of everything you said. But
welcome, Chastity.
Hi, welcome. Let me thank you for inviting me to stage. I just want to say with this, he has no accountability of any of his actions, and he makes his whole platform about telling women to leave men if they do X, Y, and Z. For him to have anything that he should have said is, because my actions, I'm gonna leave my wife. And I'm gonna, either she's gonna choose me again, but I am not gonna embarrass her like this. Until I can fix me, until I can work on me, because then there's other rumors that he made, he's not taking accountability. He's talking in third person. I can't say I did somebody wrong and then not say me, but say, oh, Chastity did that, and Chastity was wrong. That would make it seem like I'm accountable for anything I said. And if he's true to his word, true to his book, true to everything he was saying, he should have really, in his apology with her, would say, I'm sorry, I'm going to leave you, because I know right now you didn't listen to anything I've been saying. Anything I've been telling these women to leave their man, to leave. And I obviously been the worst to you. I think that I need to leave. So I have to be true to my word, true to my books, work on me, and be that one man to say, instead of keep on continuing on cheating and knowing that I messed up, I'm gonna have to take myself out of this marriage. So I could build this queen back up, because damage control is, I broke her trust, just like I've been preaching. I broke all these X, Y, and Z. I need to leave. That if this is where you are and this is how it is, come clean, leave, build her back up, and make her want to choose you again. If she does not choose you again, then it's not for it. But to make her stay in this marriage and knowing that I still need to work on me, it's not fair to her. It's not fair to watch his videos, knowing that he's telling other women to leave, but he's holding you up to stay. And I feel like that was just disrespectful, and to speak in third person.
Well, there's I'm on this.
I love it. I love what you said, Chastity. Yeah, well, people, that's how people act. They're always going to talk about other people's issues and not really look at theirs. You know, they're not pointing their fingers back at themselves. No, no, sir, no, they're not. And furthermore, going back to what somebody said here, I think it was Mindy. You said it's going to be long before the wife sleeps and eats. Let me tell you something. I don't care what I'm going through in life. Can't nobody make me miss my meals, okay? I love to eat. I don't care what I'm going through. I am not going to miss a meal because of life happening, okay? I love to eat. So whatever issue it is, I'll deal with it when I wake up. So I wanted to share that. Go ahead.
I would love to speak because I am, at the time of the affair, I was 100 pounds overweight because I can't see food without thinking that food looks like it belongs inside my mouth. And I love to eat. I'm not joking when I say it is a trauma response. You literally cannot. I lost 30 pounds in 10 days because the food comes right back out. It is a trauma. When you've been married, my husband was the high priest in our church. And we went on dates every Friday. We talked all the time. We're best friends. What he was able to hide was inconceivable, absolutely inconceivable. You may as well have told me that we lived on Jupiter. He was not it was the level of deception and betrayal. Nothing in the world made sense. You know, the food comes out both ends. You eat 3 bites and you are physically ill, and it lasts for weeks. It's crazy. It's not a choice. It is a physical betrayal response. It's the post-infidelity stress disorder. In every way mirrors PTSD, with the exception of the fact that you have not had a life-threatening event. You have just had a sanity-threatening event. Other than that, the symptoms are exactly the same.
Wow.
I'd like to, if I could, concur with Mindy on that point. And I know that it's like one of those situations, like you just kind of don't know. Did you go through things like that? But it really is an assassination of your spirit, man. Because if you are in that moment, a death feels like it has occurred, right, in your physical body. Because you have now, I think when I explained it, I couldn't give language to it when I was the one who initiated, but I could feel, after my husband had his affair, it felt like he walked into my house and pulled a machine gun at somebody else with him and shot me. When someone loves, right, adore, breaks you like that, right? Because you built your life around this person, as my husband said. It is something that is beyond your emotional control. I had dreams of doing stuff for this person that I thought was beyond my even thought process. Like, I don't behave like that. I don't think like that. But the places that brokenness can take you to, I think we can say a whole lot of things, but until you get to that place, maybe you can't give language to sometimes some of those things. For my husband to be in a place to stay with a woman, right, is very different for a man. And, you know, capacity is different, ego, all this different type of stuff. But he had to deal with those little things too. Like, my wife slept with another man. And, you know, for men, they pee on you. This is my territory. This is it. And to feel like another man walked in and peed on his wife and took his stuff, that's a level of brokenness that, I mean, come on. Like, if we be an adult, grown, and real, it's painful.
It's so true. I never had an anxiety attack in my life. I never had a panic attack in my life. And I was someone who I was humbled because people would tell me, oh, sometimes going to church is too painful for me. And I would sit on my high horse and I would think, well, that's when you need to go the most. Well, that's where, you know, when you need to be healed by God. Just like hospitals for sick people, churches for sinners, churches for broken people. Then this happened. And then I understood. Going and sitting in church, because in church brings up your feelings. And and your feelings are overwhelming, and you want to stand up in the middle of the congregation and you want to shout, I did all of that, I did all those things, and my entire soul is turned inside out, and I feel like I have swallowed hot lava. And I never knew emotional pain could feel so physical, and y'all are just sitting here like life's normal, or you're afraid. If you even open your mouth, you're going to start sobbing. It's crazy. And I thought, oh my word, this is what an anxiety attack feels like, and I'm having 12 a day. This is what a panic attack feels like, and I can't go to the grocery store. I'm afraid to leave my car for fear I'm going to collapse in the parking lot, overwhelmed by a panic attack. I'm afraid to go to church because I might burst out into tears. I was stunned. And I sound like I was a weak woman. I was not. I was a strong as hell woman through the whole thing. It is a pain you can't fathom. And if you do what DR did and you try and avoid it, you don't heal from it. You have to go through the actual grief and accept the death of what was, the death of trust. It's amazingly painful.
The death of a marriage.
Yep.
Oh my gosh. Well, this is what, this is exactly why I opened up this room. This is usually the Millennial Moms and Money Room. But tonight, I just wanted to shift it a little bit because I'm always talking about money. I'm always talking about this. But tonight, I wanted to talk about how cheating creates chaos in the household and how it affects finances in the household and who it affects, right? So if you guys are here for the very first time, this is the Millennial Moms and Money Room. Please feel free to follow, click this green Monopoly house, follow and become a member and join here because I host this room every Thursday night at 7 p.m. Please give it a follow or become a member if this room resonates with you. And if you haven't already, please feel free to follow whoever you want to follow. You're grown, you decide who you want to follow, okay? Grown people can't tell grown people what to do, but I'm glad you're here. And if you're enjoying this conversation, continue and ping some friends into this room as well. So going forward, I wanted to talk a little bit about this. I know we're talking about other stuff, but let's talk about what does cheating do to a person? What does cheating, what are the consequences of cheating? How do cheaters feel after they cheat? This is very important. So you guys have the floor.
I'm sure Troy and DR have so much to say on this, so hop in and hop out. But literally, there's multiple kinds of cheaters. You have the cheaters who are repentant and wanted a way out. And in some ways, they needed to be brought to this point so they could get their lives together. And then you have the cheaters who literally, if they could have kept this up for years, they would keep it up for years, and they have no intention of changing their ways. Oftentimes the cheater will not even reveal to his wife which one he is. He may play the repentant, she may play the repentant and not be at all, or they may be devastatedly penitent and they'll do whatever it takes to fix the marriage. And in many ways, if they're that and you both work, you may have a far better marriage than you ever had before. I've seen it happen many times. But I would be surprised if Troy and DR were to say that there's one type of cheater response.
Well, you're right, Lily. There's definitely multiple cheater responses, right? So I'll speak for myself. I fell in on the desperately repentant. And it was more so, I would say, for my part, it was more so before the Lord, right? When it happened, I was new in the faith, and I really didn't have a grasp on the things of God. And I remember very specifically, because I confessed actually to my mother-in-law, and my husband is a mama's boy. But my mother-in-law, I respected her walk in the Lord. And at the moment that I confessed to her, what I wanted was right relationship with the Lord. I figured, like, ain't no man saying after this, but can you tell me how to reestablish my walk with the Lord? And so I was repentant on that I had I seen what brokenness looked like for me to break another person the way that I did my husband. That thing broke me in places and to Mindy's point that I needed to be broken in. I came into our marriage with just very toxic thoughts and beliefs and things that I didn't quite even know about myself. And that was the tool that was used to bring me into that relationship with the Lord. And so when we talk about what that person feel, I can see from my point of view that was broken. I've seen that I had was an act almost devastated my family, right? And I didn't want a broken home. I didn't want to be raised the way that I was raised. I didn't want to have a bunch of baby daddies. I didn't want to be in the streets. I didn't want to be all these things. Mm-hmm. But just history tried to repeat itself in my family, in my circle, and tried to reproduce that in my home. And I am so grateful that God stepped in and gave me the strength that I needed to face who I was, what I was doing in the moment, and what my actions had done, and actually catch a glimpse of what it had potential to do to my family. And so I was definitely one that was repentant. There are people who are narcissists. There are people who, just sit on the other side of it and like, this is what it is, and don't have that remorse response. Mm-hmm. They blame, it's because of you, because of this. Mm-hmm. I saw a post today, and it was of his wife and of two of the women he had been intimate with. And they said, if she was in competition with this, of course this was going to happen. But my response was, when you're in a competition, you're running a race with other people who are in your lane. Those other women were not in her lane. She's the wife.
That's right. That's right.
With her. So nobody else in the lane. How she looked, how she showed up. Yes, I'm all about being the best that you can be for your spouse. But that lane that she operated in, she was anointed and appointed to be in that place. Everybody else was trespassing. So she wasn't in competition with nobody else but herself. I don't know, baby, you got something to share? They asked me, what does it look like after the person? I'm sorry, we're getting food. Sorry. What does the person feel who had the affair feel like after the fact?
Mm-hmm. Wow. Okay, so and follow this woman up. On the male side, I know for me, it was a huge reality check for me. I had my priorities jacked up, right? And what it did was it really forced what you all call in the computer world a hard reset, right? Mm-hmm. I remember when I found out, little story how I found out. I'd been off of work for an injury. I was in the Chicago Police Department. I'd been off of work for an injury, and the night before, she and I just had a really in-depth talk. And mind you, I had been very absentee, not making any excuses for it, but I was working a lot of hours. I had a part-time job, because we'd gone from welfare to now gainfully employed. And though I thought I was doing everything right, I'm on this grind, I'm on this hustle, right? I'm working one full-time job, Chicago Police, 6 nights a week. Then I'm working a part-time job in security at school, and then I'm modeling on the side. And I'm like, we don't get the bag, we don't get all this stuff, I'm probably going to get us what we need. And what I failed to realize is she never signed up for any of that. Mm-hmm. She wanted me. And the one thing that she wanted, she wasn't getting. That was my time, my attention, and the emotional investment. And so when it hit, when I found out the next day, I remember I was driving to go report into work. I'm coming off of this extended medical leave after this injury, from an incident in the streets. And I called my mom, and she, I didn't know I didn't know anything. I was oblivious to her affair, right? That's how caught up I was in my own stride. I was totally oblivious to what was going on around me. And all the signs were there. She was pleading for my attention. And I was just totally oblivious to it, and insensitive to it. And so I remember I'm driving to work, and I called my mom because I'm a mom's boy, and she said, "Have you talked to Toy?" She tell you what's going on. I said, yeah, Mom, we talked about it. We had a hard time, some tears were shed, blah, 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 blah. I said, but we're good. We're going to be okay. And my mom can kind of tell by my response that she had told me everything. She says, Dwayne, did she tell you? She knows me. She's like, did she tell you everything? I'm like, sure, Mom. And I told her what she told me, but it wasn't what she was supposed to tell me. Right? And she says, no, babe, call Toy and tell her to tell you everything. And so I got off the phone. I'm like, yo, babe, Mom, what's going on? And she told me. And so you turn up, get off the expressway, make you turn, I head back to the house. And never forget, I go up to our door, our apartment, and our daughter Morgan, who's about to go to law school, at the time she was like 2. Yeah, she was like 2. And she comes to the door, it's like, Mommy, Daddy's at the door. That Daddy is. She's like, no, not a man, no. So I told Morgan to get away from the door, and I literally kicked the door down, right? When I hear Morgan go down, her footsteps go down the hall, I kick the door down. And I'm all fire, brimstone, and fury until I laid eyes on my wife. And as soon as I saw her, I literally felt my heart break, and I just slumped to the floor. I felt something break inside of me. And I just stopped, like, how did you do this to me? And it was hard, just like Mindy. I was athletic, fit. I went from a strapping 200-pound male to like 135 pounds. I had extended time off of work. I was literally forced into a week, of psychiatric treatment by my job. They're like, you cannot return to work till we know you're fit. And for me, it was life-changing. It was life-changing. But in that time, I came to grips with some very real truths. Ownership looks one way, and that's inward, right? Yes, I could crucify. If I left, the man's supposed to leave. That's kind of like an understood, right? No one would have faulted me for it. I got a career, I had a reputation, the whole 9 yards. But at that time, nothing mattered. Nothing mattered. All that mattered was, am I going to perpetuate a generational curse in my family and walk away from a woman who's truly repentant? And it took me a long time to process. And I tell you, the next year I spent off of work just processing through it. And it was a lot of tears, it was a lot of pain, it was a lot of venting, right? All of that. And so it was a level of brokenness. It was a level of brokenness that I really had to come to grips with of my own making. And so when I tell you the pain is unlike, as you said, anything you've never experienced, I didn't think it was possible to hurt somebody like that. And I've been in fights the whole time. I'm just getting off of an injury. But that pain, that was something different. It's very much a death. It's very much a death. But the beautiful thing is, when both people are committed to the mission that God has laid in front of them, restoration, we are proof that restoration is possible completely. That's it.
Wow, Mr. DR, thank you so much for sharing your experience, your real life truth with you and your wife. It takes a lot of guts and courage to be so transparent with a room full of strangers with what you guys have gone through together, rebuilding together, sustaining your marriage, and also going through everything and praying to God to restore your marriage. I commend you both on that, and I pray that God will continue to bless you guys and bless you indeed, and continue working things out in your marriage.
Thank you very much. We thank God, and it's possible, as we said earlier, we're not without mercy in the situation when it comes to Mr. Jackson and his wife. Right now, we're just, God will not be mocked. Whatsoever man soweth, that shall he reap. So he's got some harvests to bring in. It goes without saying. And so at this point, our prayer for this brother's family is just mercy.
Yes, absolutely. So I just want to greet Tina really quick for coming
I wanted to
by.
add a book that I read earlier. It's called, I read it a few years ago. It's called What It's Like to Be Married to Me. And it's pretty much, I think it's 5 testimonies or maybe it's 6, but there's several testimonies. It's similar to what DR just spoke about by looking inward. And so some of the testimonies are pretty amazing about, you know, how God can restore things. Because there's this one story in particular, I don't remember the others, but I remember there's this one story in particular in this book where the husband rapes their daughter. And, you know, get the book, but God restores that marriage all the way to, you know, him walking his daughter down the aisle on her wedding day. So, yes, it's absolutely amazing what can be healed, but it does take time. I think that's what everyone is saying, you know, as well here. And, you know, it takes years, and I have not been in a marriage where I've been cheated on, but I have experienced trauma, and similar to, oh, she's gone now. But when you are traumatized and then you follow that by heartbreak, you kind of go into, or at least I did, into places that you don't think you would go, and you become things you don't think you would become. So it takes years to heal from something that's traumatic, but anything is possible to be restored if it's God's will. But, you know, sometimes it's not, and it is sometimes, you know, meant for the 2 people to go their separate ways. So it's so important that we, you know, have that relationship with God so that we can hear, you know, really how we are supposed to be led, because, you know, not everything is meant to be brought back together. But I did want to recommend the book, What It's Like to Be Married to Me, because I remember it was just amazing. And then after I was done with it, I gave it to a friend of mine who had just gotten married. So yeah, it's a really good book. And I'm done speaking.
Beth, thank you so much for sharing that with us. It's very important for us to read because reading is fundamental. So thank you for that share. For those of you that are just entering the room, I go by the name of Schneidine, the Millennial Mom Money Expert. I teach people how to get out of debt and improve in their finances. I am here in this room. This club is actually the Millennial Moms and Money. I always talk about money, but tonight I wanted to flip the script a little bit, talk about some of the things on how cheating creates chaos in a household, and also, you know, how it affects the house financially. And of course, we're featuring a little tidbit on the Derek Jackson situation, because as Christian women, as Christian moms, do we tolerate a man cheating on us privately, publicly, and all of that? And if you haven't already, please follow this club, hit the little green Monopoly house, join as a member, and also follow if any of this information resonates with you. And without further ado, I'd like to introduce Tina. Tina, if you have anything to say, you are more than welcome to share with us. Let everybody know who you are, and also any tips on cheating, how cheating creates chaos in a household for a mom, for a woman, or a wife, and how it affects the children. The floor is yours.
Hey, thank you, Snidine, for having me. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Tina D. Lewis. I am a bottom line strategist, affectionately known as the bottom line queen. I learned really early on because I come from a place that my mom didn't have money after a near fatal car accident. And so being a teenage mom, pregnant at 18, giving birth at 19, I had to do some creative financing. When I say creative, I mean almost magical, right? Mm-hmm. And so I made my first 6 figures in 45 days, and I just began to do that over and over and over again while going to school to be an engineer, then medical school. And I realized after school that I was chronically unemployable. I'm absolutely allergic to supervision. I promise you, if I'm indoors and being told what to do, I'm going to break out in hives.
And so I became a serial entrepreneur, building multiple six-figure commodities, not just for myself, but also for my clients, grossing $1 million and just continuing to be able to make an impact. The impact is what leads to my income. I actually founded the first ever Women's Day Summit here on Clubhouse, and we're giving a summit every single month on the 8th. And so for me, I just came to support Sniding. I was invited. And you guys, I got to share something in all transparency that I don't know what happened with Derek Jackson at all. I am oblivious. So if someone can enlighten me, then I can share. And the second thing is chaos and cheating. That's not, I mean, I really don't, I can't really share educationally or just intelligently about that topic for multiple reasons. One is I have never been unfaithful. Two is that if I even thought, felt, had an intuition that my mate was being unfaithful or even thinking about it or emotionally cheating or whatever, I just really just left. Like I have this disconnect that I'm working on. I have this disconnect where it's just over and I'm good with it. And that's kind of dysfunctional. It shouldn't be that way. But I could assume that it would be chaotic. I mean, I've been around a lot of people, especially in the professional athlete arena. And so I could see how it could totally be devastating. I have stories, of friends that were dating professional athletes, kids by, just, I could go on about that. But if we can just backtrack and reverse and someone can tell me briefly who is Derek Jackson and what happened. This is Tina D, and I'm open.
Okay, Tina, yes. Derek Jackson is actually a relationship and life coach, and he is also an author who has, done so many different events with women and men, telling all the men and women, hey, if a spouse or a mate cheats on you, you just leave them no matter what it is. And he's like a public figure that a lot of people know. Maybe some people don't know him, but he has been he's been trending on social media the past several days because it has been public knowledge now that he actually cheated on his wife. He did a whole video with his wife stating all the reasons why he cheated and why he cheated, the names and all of this. He had her sit and have a Kobe and Vanessa moment and just have her sit there and basically confess that he cheated. And he also said in his video, if you guys don't support me anymore, I can understand why, because he was going around being fraudulent and, cheating on his wife for many years. And she just recently knew about it. But I feel as women, we always know because we have intuitions. And personally for me, I can't put up with none of that crap. But hey, to each his own, and they're going through it because they're going through it together. Because now he's saying that he's saved as a Christian and God is restoring their marriage. So that's the quick update.
Okay, so just a brief synopsis is that this guy is a relationship expert. He's been coaching, training, mentoring, and being a shepherd to women, giving them knowledge and relationship advice, saying that if their husbands cheated to just leave, period, point blank.
Absolutely.
And he was hypocritical and he had an affair and
several affairs. Several.
Oh, wow. Right.
Yeah, but
wow.
We were in this discussion just to talk about, why cheating is so bad and how it affects a household financially, because when you're cheating, that means you're taking time and money out of this household, spending it on another woman, having to do hotel dates, dinner, travel, whatever else, paying her bills at X, Y, and Z. And now where's the money going? How come we don't have money for this or money for that? So when people cheat, it does create chaos in the household, and it also affects children, regardless of their age. Children whose parents have been unfaithful often react with intense feelings of anger, anxiety, guilt, shame, sadness, and confusion. They may even act out, regress, or withdraw. They may feel pressure to win back the love of the unfaithful parent or become the caretaker of the betrayed parent. So that's what I wanted to share.
That's deep, Snidine. I remember when my mom was in the hospital from the accident. I was only in the 5th grade, so I really didn't know what was happening. But she was in the hospital for 3 months, November, December, and January. And it was my stepdad. And I know now, as an adult, that he was seeing someone else while she was in the hospital or something. I just knew that they got divorced, but I never seen or knew anything. And even though he was my stepdad, I know my brother, wanted him to stay at home or whatever, but I really didn't care. I wasn't really attached because, one, he was my stepdad, but he treated him, like a garter. But I just never, I don't know, I was kind of eccentric. Like, I really didn't care about much. And even though I say that, it had to affect me in certain kind of ways because, like I said, I have an emotional disconnect where it doesn't matter. It can be a friend, it could be a mate. And if I feel slighted in any capacity, or if someone is disloyal, or I am not like a priority. Like if someone if I don't feel like I'm a priority, then I'm done, like totally. So this is hot. This is a great conversation to have, and it's thought provoking. And so, like I said, I'm pretty sure somewhere down the line, I probably was damaged because of the relationships or the things that happened, in my mom's relationships. I just haven't, it's weird. Like I haven't been in a relationship like that. Like I said, if I just felt that something wasn't right, I would just rather be done with it instead of trying to explain it or discover it. And they would be like, well, what's wrong? I was like, I just feel like something. Because, women, we have 6th sense.
Yes, we do.
We have a 6th.
Tina, I wanted to jump in for a second, if you don't mind. Listening to you talk, and it resonates with me because I grew up being abused, and experiencing that type of abuse really made me be very guarded and very protective of myself. And earlier on, you wasn't in the room just yet, and we had a conversation, and I had mentioned, and I said, hey, I would just leave the relationship. Like, I'm done. Like, I'm a different creature. Like, and so I just want to let you know, I relate to that. And I'll be real honest, we really don't know exactly what someone would do if that came about. And I had said that. I said, I had to backpedal a little bit and say, you know what? I don't know what I would do if I was in that situation at all. I really don't.
But Natasha, can I ask you a question? When you say abuse, when you say you were abused, do you mean physically, emotionally?
All above, physically, emotionally. I spent 18 years in the foster care system, and I experienced abuse as a child. So I spent my entire childhood there in and out of homes and being abused in some of the homes, including, sexually. And I didn't share that in the beginning. And so I really think that plays a factor on my psyche and how I handle my relationship. It does. It's not even a question. It's how I handle my relationships, moving forward. And because you weren't in the room, I've been with my husband for 20 years.
Oh, wow.
So,
congratulations.
Yeah, 20. Thank you. Yeah, together, 2017, married. And, I will say this, and I didn't say this very early, now that we're deep into it. It took me a lot of work and a lot of, soul searching, building myself and, internally to be able to even be in this relationship. I mean, it's a running joke when my husband first, asked to marry me. Like, my family members and certain friends were like,
are you sure? Because, you know, you're going to be dealing with a lot. And I didn't realize I was a lot, you know, back then. I didn't realize that
you're my kindred sister. You're absolutely right. And I'm glad you came out unmute and that you were transparent and open, because even though we don't have the same childhood as far as foster system, but we do have the same guardedness in regards to, you know, being emotionally unavailable and being a hot mess. You're a hot mess. I'm a hot mess.
Right. And you know what? It's the truth. And it's kind of like you try to rebuild yourself. I had to rebuild myself. I had to change the way that I was thinking. I had to change how I treated people. Like, I didn't realize I was mean. Like, people said this was, you know, years ago, but people were saying I was mean and I had a chip on my shoulder. In my opinion, I was being matter of fact, I was being direct, and I was just, you know, being strong. But
because you had to be. I mean, your childhood molded you into that woman that had to protect herself. Like, you got to a point where you're like, no more abuse, no more dismissal, no more neglect.
Right. And then, and you know, and the thing about it is, even after my childhood, experiencing life after being in care and just being on my own at 17, it was a whole new world for me, just being able to try to, you know, live life. And I had to grow up very quickly. And in that environment, it's survival of the fittest. So you really just have you have a different way of thinking. Like, even now I think different. I always say I think different than probably your average person, but it's my experiences that led me there. Yeah.
No, you do. And that's okay. It's okay to be an anomaly. It's okay to live your truth, Latasha, unashamed and unapologetic, because no one has walked in your shoes. And it is crazy because, you know, my family always tell everyone, like, are you sure you are? Like, they always say, Tina, I don't understand how you keep a man. Like, how do you, men just love you, and we're the good ones, and we can't find a man, and you're a bitch. And you're like, I know, like, it's not that. It's just that I know what I want. But most importantly, I think most women know what they want. But I think it's a time that we need to start knowing what you don't want, because you're so focused on what you want. When you get that in pieces, you're okay with it. But when you stand for what you don't want and what you will not tolerate, then that is a different ballgame, because then you start looking for something different. You start tolerating different things. You want to go where you're celebrated and not tolerated. If you're just looking for a man that's nice, that, you know, takes care of the family, then that's what you're going to get. But if you know that you will not tolerate abuse emotionally, mentally, or physically, if you know you will not tolerate cheating, then if you get that man that's nice and takes care of the home, but he cheats, you already know that you won't tolerate that. But what happens is we settle for what we're looking for. And I'm an advocate of, you know, that not happening. But I am not in a position and will never tell any other woman, not even a single woman, what to do, who to date. I will never tell a married woman to leave, because, you know, we all have a standard of non-negotiables. And me staying with somebody or being with someone that's unfaithful, that's a non-negotiable. Like, for me, it's not happening. But I do know that as we mature, things change. I mean, what we wanted in our 20s and 30s was different. What we wanted in, you know, I guess for women who are like 40 and 50, that changed in 60 and 70. And I did a like, I would say like a poll or a test. And we had 56 women. And it was crazy because, do you know, like, when we're like 20 years old, we just want somebody cute with a job.
Yes, exactly.
It's crazy. And I thought that was a thing of the past, but it's actually true to this day. And there was a young lady there, and I would never forget her. She was 62 years old, and she was hot. She looked so adorable. And she said that she doesn't care if a man has a car or a job. She doesn't care. She just wants companionship, and that she could take care of herself. She just wants somebody, you know, to talk to. And at the moment when she was saying that, I was like, oh no, that's not enough. That's not enough. But we went on lunch break, and I thought about it. It just stuck with me. Like, I couldn't shake it. So I went to her and I said, I just want to ask you in privacy, why would you just want to tolerate just somebody physically being there and just conversation over someone that's faithful, someone that's loyal, someone that can, take care of you, someone that can protect you, someone that can, et cetera. And she just said, I really feel that I've lived the majority of my life and I have left. And, someone being faithful, that's not important to me. I really just want the companionship. And she was so sincere, it was riveting to hear her say that. I had chills right now, even just talking about it, because it makes you realize the level of when life kicks our butt and we, get knocked down. Sometimes we don't get back up. Sometimes we just say, that's just what I want, or that's what she wants, and it's okay with that. For me, I'm like, okay, well, even at 70, I don't care. I'm going to be 80 with tight jeans on and some pumps, and he's still going to have to be faithful. Don't beat that ass.
Exactly.
It's interesting because, I think, and we were talking two things, and then I know, Nadine, you want to take back over your room.
We're good. I love the conversations. Keep it going.
Okay. One of the things, I got three things to say there. The first thing is like when we've experienced, trauma and heartbreak and destruction within our lives, and if you have that in your background, one of the things that I can say that really helped with at least my personal relationship is that I really had to take a look at me, and I was selfish. Like I was a selfish person. And the reason being is because it's always been, again, I say survival of the fittest. So I didn't realize like I'm a giver by nature, but when it comes to my relationships and me, I had to learn how to be a giver. I had to learn how to be, and here's the other one, how to receive love. Because I was so unavailable in that area that I just didn't know how to receive it and how to truly give it. And so it was a lot of work, for my husband and I when we first got together, to really get to this point to where we are in our relationship, like it's great and it's wonderful, but it was still working on it every single day. And that trauma and everything that I grew up with, and even after I was, even in my adult life, and you earlier on I had stated that, I was in a domestic violence relationship where the person didn't put their hand on me, but I was berated. I was called stupid, dumb. I never amounted to anything. I mean, this went on for years. And so to the point where I was finally able to muster up to move on. And that situation really, honestly, tore me apart. And I had to pick those pieces back up. And then in walks my husband to be. Now, he had to deal with all of that. And then for us to work together to become whole. So I say that because I really had to work on me wholeheartedly. And really, when I say, and then this is also a Christian room, so I really had to really do some soul searching and really did dive deep with God. I mean, we really did. And so for me, that kind of was what worked for me. The other thing is I've been married 70 years. 70 years. And I swear it is the most beautiful thing you ever want to see. But I had to get used to the but is she knows him like the back of her hand, and she can just say, oh, go sit down somewhere, go somewhere. And he just going on to sit down and say, oh, you don't know what you're talking about. And it's the cutest little arguments they get into. But 70 years, and they're in their 90s now. And I look at that and I say, it can be done, because 70 years ago, they had some struggles that we couldn't even imagine that they have went through, And so I want to say that I know that it's possible for people to, the trials and the tribulations that people go through. But I think, I forgot the third thing I want to say, but back to the original point I was trying to make. Everybody, be it men and women, we definitely have to dig deep within ourselves and work on ourselves continuously in order to move forward in our relationships. That's my opinion. And like I said, you never know what you're going to do until it's right in front of you. But Tina, I did say the exact same thing. Like, hey, I would just leave. But then after listening to everyone, and it was a nice lady on the panel, Chris. After listening to everyone, I just said, you know what? I don't know what I would do. I really don't.
We don't. We don't, and we can't.
Until it's in front of us.
No, you don't.
Yeah.
We don't. And it's so funny that you said you were selfish, because I know because for me to grow, like I went back and asked like all my ex-boyfriends, like, well, why were you with me? Like I was self-centered, egotistical, my way or the highway. And I was like, why did you stay? Like I am so fortunate, and I thank God for it on a daily basis, that I've had nothing but great men, like OMG, like I just can't even, wow. And I went back and asked him, like, why did you stay? Like, why were you with me? Like, I wouldn't have dated me. Like, why were you with me? And, I took their answers, and I was like, if one thing I can change. And I was violent. I was violent because I had seen my mom and, my stepdad and her other husbands. I had seen them fight. Like, they would fight. And so I became violent. Like, I would fight. It didn't even matter. Like, if you say something wrong, like, I would like slap you easily. Like, easily.
The value of our relationships comes from our childhood, though. It thrives from our childhood. That was one of the very first things I had to learn about myself. So yeah, that is so true, Tina. The values of our relationship and how we go into our relationship definitely derives from our childhood.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct. And it's crazy because I can tell you this, I could not understand like domestic violence, Latasha, like the fact that a man hit you, like I can't even see it. I can't even see it because they would be beat down or like dead if they would have hit me. Like seriously, even my own brother used to say, Tina, I'm your brother, but if he hits you back, you deserve it.
So it depends, Tina. I used to say
I
that. I'm a certified marksman. I used to say that. And I'm a certified marksman, but my ex-husband laid hands on me while I was pregnant. So he took the moment of the most vulnerable time and used it to his advantage, because he knew at that time, even as a certified marksman, I couldn't do much, right? I was bedridden with my first child, and there was not much I could do. So he took that opportunity and maximized on it.
Did you stay with him afterwards to have a second child?
No, I have one daughter. She's 13 by him.
Yeah.
I'm so sad to hear that.
It took me a long time. I took a test. I was waiting. I was somewhere and I was waiting. And it was this yellow piece of paper. I will never forget. It says, are you the abuser or the abused? And when I took the test, it said that I was the abuser. And it was absolutely right. It was so right. It was crazy.
But the sad part about that test, because we give that to the foster kids here in Michigan. I'm a behavioral therapist for foster care here in Michigan. But I only do it part-time now because it's kind of sad.
I did not know that.
Yeah, it makes me sad, so I don't do it often. Like, I do it part-time. I thought we talked about that, Latasha. I'm sorry. I thought I told you.
No. Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
It's okay. So I do it part-time, and they usually connect me with teenage women. And so it kind of hits me differently because some people don't know a lot about me. Like, Carl gets to hear bits and pieces of my story over and over again because he's helping me write my book. And every time I'm in a room, he hears a little bit more of my story. So he, of everybody in this room, knows the most. But my childhood was very different. Like, I didn't see women getting beat on because my family was American gangsters. Like, they have a show about these people. Like, this is, like, real. I rode around in Benzinos and Lamborghinis and Maseratis. I saw one of my cousins get buried in a Maserati. So my childhood was slightly different. My toxic traits that I picked up was I always had to have my own bag by any means necessary. So love wasn't a thing for me. I never really seen, other than my great-grandparents, who pretty much died 2 weeks apart from each other. And they were married 11 years longer than your aunt and uncle, Latasha. So I did get to see longevity. However, there was a point in their marriage where they slept in separate rooms. And I didn't feel like I was close enough with either of them to question why they chose to do it. So I didn't learn why they did that. Like, I don't know the ins and outs of why at some point they went from sharing the one room in the big house to having separate rooms. I do know that my great grandmother was married 3 times. He was her last husband, and the one that she would always verbally and physically show love to. Like, I seen all of her other husbands as well, but I never seen her love this way before. So it was different for me to see, and they were married the longest. Other than that, my marriage was an exact replica of my brother's dad and my mom's relationship. Like, there's nothing about it that is different. Everything about it was the same. I was just the military person, and my stepdad was the military person. My mom and my ex-husband did the exact same things. They were the exact same people. He was just a guy, and my mom was a female. So I always have to pause people when they say that only males can be narcissists, because my mom was a narcissist. So there's not a gender. There's not a gender on a narcissist. Like, it's just a trait that people carry.
I was called a narcissist when I think it was my first year of college. We were going over psychology, and it's like we were going over the different, mental disorders and characteristic traits. And they were naming people when they got to narcissist, and he said, Tina, I wanted to fight him so bad, like he was so scared because I was.
But you would have totally been proving him right. That's the bad.
Well, because you know what, I believe because I was. I just didn't see it. I just believe that a fish doesn't know it's in water, and a picture doesn't know it's in a frame. And so I was a narcissist, and I may even still be a little bit.
So we all have to grow in our growing pains, and I'm learning to grow. Me and Carl are going to physically fight, and it's not just going to be all love, though, but we're going to fight because every time him and Schneidine are in a room, I find myself talking. I promise you guys, before Clubhouse, and Carl can attest, I would be sitting in the back in the dugout, the little girl from D that don't say nothing, unless I'm teaching. Like, when I'm teaching or mentoring, I just go. But otherwise, I'm the observer in the room. And I think it has a lot to do with why I was so good at being a marksman for the Air Force, or why I was good at being an AWOL recovery specialist in the Air Force, because I'm an observer. I sat back and watched so many people do so many things that I have all this literature that will soon be compiled into many books, because people don't like to read long books anymore. And if I put it all in one, it'll be an Encyclopedia Britannica that nobody knows what that is anymore. But I'm starting off with my relationship with my mom.
Did you say you're a behavioral therapist?
Yep. I did that to heal myself, though. I didn't do it to become an actual therapist. I went to behavioral therapy to learn about myself, and in turn became good at it.
Well, that's excellent, because you can't lead where you've never been, and you can't teach what you don't know, and you can't give what you don't have. So I think that's excellent. Right, yeah.
So the actual goal, Tina, Tasha, Bev, Schneidine, Carl, the actual goal in doing all of my therapy wasn't to get all these certifications in the different avenues of therapy. It was my self-healing journey that just led me to certifications, if that makes sense. Because I do behavioral, I'm almost done with my occupational, I do massage and physical therapy.
That's what I'm talking about.
Amazing. Go ahead, Snidine. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, that's what I'm talking about. I'm very proud of you, Kai, for you branching out and doing so many things, and now being so vocal. Yes, every time you come into a room, I want to hear you speak. And this is why I want to create these rooms, because everybody wants to be seen and heard. If you're not seen, darn it, gosh darn it, heck, you got to be heard, okay? So I'm just so proud of you, seeing your growth within these past few months. You have blossomed, and I'm just so happy to see how you have developed your character and how you're just so vocal. So I'm really proud of you.
So you can't see me, so I don't have to say whether I'm crying or not.
Understood,
You are.
understood. Well, yes, we're happy that you are blossoming. And see, this is, if you guys are just coming in, this is the Millennial Moms and Money Room. If you haven't already, please follow, and also become a member. I hold this great room. We talk about moms, we talk about money, we talk about family, and we talk about finances, of course. Tonight, I did a little shift. We're talking about relationships and how cheating creates chaos in a household. It is a little, it's a trigger because it triggers some people with their own relationships, personal life. Everyone has their own thing that they're going through in their own personal lives. And this is why I wanted to have an open discussion tonight and talk about relationships. And with that being said, I would like to introduce Carl. So Carl, you have the floor. If you're there. If you're not there, then, okay.
Is my background too noisy?
No, you're good. You have the floor.
All right, awesome.
Thanks for staying on,
one of
you
my
guys. I
superstar
appreciate
clients
you.
right now. I always want to chime in. I'm at her restaurant, so we're working on her upcoming book. I caught some of the conversation because I had like my earpiece in. What did you want me to go over exactly?
Okay, well, we're talking about relationships, how cheating creates chaos in a household, how cheating affects moms, how cheating affects women, how it affects children. And we know when children are involved, it becomes more complex. So, I wanted you to talk about how cheating creates chaos in a household.
Yeah, I appreciate that recap tonight. I appreciate. I heard a little bit of Natasha. I heard a little bit of Tina, a little bit of Kai, and I want to say thank you for your transparency and your vulnerability. Luckily for us, it's a smaller room, so we could be as transparent in this intimate setting. So thank y'all. Like Kyle mentioned earlier, a lot of the things that we do in our relationship stems from what we see in the household. Mm-hmm. And luckily for me, my parents, despite not being a perfect relationship, I'd never seen any abuse or anything like that in my household. But if I am going to keep it transparent, I did start noticing lying. I did start noticing inconsistencies in stories, and it started to affect me a lot in my becoming. This is for the phone.
It's okay.
Okay. No, my bad. I started seeing inconsistencies in my dad, if I'm gonna be honest, and it definitely affected me as a young man. I realized that my dad was human, and for a long time I looked at him as a superhero. And when you see that human aspect of things as a young adult, understanding what's happening, it really, really hurts. It really, really hurts. And it absolutely affects me as a young adult who's never been married with no children. Mm-hmm. I'm looking at things like, damn, how perfect does a woman need to be in order for a man to be faithful, because I haven't seen any real examples of men being 1,000% faithful. The men who I have looked up to, sorry for the background noise. Is it too loud?
It's a little loud, but it's okay. Push through.
All right. So real
push through.
Real quick, the men who I have seen and I have looked up to had at one point or another disappointed me. So it does make me lose hope in a lot of things, because the men that you think are these outstanding husbands, it turned out to be a facade. It is disheartening, but I know that with God and with Christ, all things are possible. So I'm really like working on myself every day to make sure that I am one day an amazing husband and an amazing dad. You know, there's so much more I wanted to get into, but it's super loud back here, so I apologize. But I use those examples, and I'm no longer scared of marriage. I use those examples, and I have determined to be the exception to the rule, you know. So I'm looking forward to that whenever that happens. I'm done speaking. Sorry for the background noise.
It's okay. No need to apologize. It's life happening. This is real life, guys. So thank you for your opinion. Thank you for your share. Thank you, because I know what you're saying personally. And I appreciate you stopping by. I know you're very busy, and I'm going to close out the room very soon. But before I close out the room, guys, if you haven't already, please take the time to, one, follow the Green Monopoly House, join to become a member of the Millennial Moms and Money Room, and also follow. So every time I have a room here, you guys can come and talk and be vocal. Let your voice be heard. And also, if you go to my Instagram, click on the bio, subscribe to my YouTube channel, because that's where I am live streaming right now. Hello to my YouTube family. Happy that you guys are tuning in. And anything that you guys want to say, the floor is yours. And hello, Raven. Welcome to the stage.
Hey, yeah, I'm Raven. Nice to meet you all. The title caught my attention. I just want to introduce myself. My husband and I actually share a podcast helping couples overcome infidelity. 7.5 years ago, I actually cheated on my husband at the beginning of our marriage. And I am a witness that you can overcome, infidelity. So, but like I said, the title caught my attention. I'm definitely going to be following this club because I am also a millennial mom. and yeah. Thank you so much for inviting me up. I appreciate it. Nice to meet you, Raven.
Nice to meet you, Raven. Thank you for being here. I appreciate that. Yes.
Nice to meet you. I actually brought her up because I read your bio.
Awesome.
That's what made me invite you to the stage. I thought you would be great to be on stage. Carl, I know that you
for being here.
Are busy right now, but I just wanted to tell you your perspective was really, the fact that you're thinking about now, getting married and wanting to be a father, that takes a lot for a guy sometimes to even say like, hey, I'm changed, I'm different. So I just thought that was pretty cool.
Very cool it was, Carl. I have a friend that I've been friends with since I was 13 and he was 16. We're now 41 and 45. We're still friends. Every now and again, we get to a point where we both are like scared to be more than friends. Is there a possibility that we should be or could be? Neither one of us know. And as a behavioral therapist, I try my best not to overanalyze him. But there are some traumas that prevent us from moving forward. He was abandoned at birth. And so he has some issues with women that he doesn't even realize he has. And it's not my job as his friend to say, hey, look, this is your problem, because that's a growth moment for him, not for me. And as a person who's not in a relationship with him, I just talk to him, let him vent, help him to sort out some of the other problems that he comes up with. But I know that that's an underlying issue. He was in 13 foster homes. He was molested as a child. There was a lot there. And so while some of our situations are relatable, like we have similar circumstances, some of them, not all of them. I was never abandoned at birth, and I was never in the foster care system. I was, however, taken away from my mom because I mentioned earlier she was an American gangster. So I was considered the family's baby. I pretty much lived with all the elders on both sides of my family until I was going through my divorce, when I lived with my mom for the first time ever in my life. And so that was hard for me to accept some of the things that she was telling me as far as advice or anything really, because she didn't experience my first menstrual cycle. She didn't experience a lot of things with me. And it was just to me like, okay, this lady telling me what to do. The defiant part kicked in, even though I was an adult. I still had that teenage defiant moment, like, yeah, okay, whatever. You can't tell me what to do. You don't know nothing, you know? And so those growing pains develop who we are, who we become, how we react, how we respond. I have 2 daughters. I never wanted daughters. Look at what God did to me. Like, I didn't want daughters because I knew how I was. I knew how my 2 sisters were. I knew how my mom was. And both ultrasounds, and I still have proof, both of my ultrasounds showed visibly that I was having boys. But to present day, my 13-year-old and my 7-year-old sleep in the fetal position. So I was deceived by an ultrasound because I wanted boys because I felt that I would mess up a female's life. That was my thought. But here I am, 41, and I only mentor females because that's where God has been placing me. Whether it be female sorors or females that I talk to on Clubhouse, or females that have been in marriages similar to mine, or that have children by 2 different people like me. I was engaged for my second daughter, her dad. I was engaged. He lost his mom and he changed. Something triggered in him that was so toxic that the best thing to do was to separate ourselves. So it wasn't that he did anything to me. It was self-sabotage after his mom died, and him and his mom weren't even close. It was very chaotic, and he's number 6 of 12 children. And so it just got really messy. And so I just had to separate myself from that so that he can heal more so that we can be in a relationship and have a family. It was the safest thing for me to do for the baby. It was the safest thing for me to do for me and for him. So sometimes, and I had this conversation in another room, sometimes people get in circumstances and situations and it's not of their choosing. Like, I never chose to be married and divorced. I never chose to be a mother of 2 children by 2 different people, but God did. And people are like, well, God didn't do that. You made bad choices. Well, no, both times I would have been married. And since people think that being married means that that's when you're supposed to have kids, I disagree with that too now, just because I've experienced it. I married somebody I knew since I was 4 years old. And he was the worst person that I could have ever married. So I have to constantly tell people, you have to soul search yourself, and you have to make sure that you're not a piece of paper ripping yourself and handing it over to other people never to get it back. Similar to what TDJ said in Soul Ties, similar to what Pastor Todd is saying in relationship goals, mine is a little different, but yet the same. You start off as a blank, clean, empty sheet of paper. And then you start to rip bits and pieces off and give it to people. It doesn't necessarily have to be sexual, intimate, or to a man. If you're giving your time, your effort, and your energy to a good or so-called good friend or associate, you're ripping a piece of yourself off and you're handing it over to them. So you have to be very cognitive, and you have to learn how to discern between good and bad, whether it's male or female. Because sometimes your childhood, well, most of the time, if not all of the time, your childhood depicts who you're going to be until you decide to be somebody different. I chose to be different than what my childhood was creating. It was a conscious choice. Everybody doesn't make that conscious choice. There are a lot of people maximizing off of the damage that is caused to women. Women, more perfectly, unfortunately, Black women, are the most unprotected species on this planet. It's just unfortunate fact. We are. We don't protect each other. We don't protect ourselves. We get into circumstances and situations, and then and it's unfortunate, we run right to God afterwards. Not that that's a bad thing, but why not run to God while you're in it? Because I never ran to God while I was in that messy divorce. I waited until after. I should have did it while I was in the thick of things. But instead, I did my own thing all the way through, and then afterwards, I ran to God. I should have been right at the altar, on the pulpit steps or something, during it, instead of waiting to after, and then crying out to God, oh God, help me now. No, because he was always there. and I should have always opened the door for him to be there, and I didn't. So we need to learn how to better support each other. And when I saw the title is what I jumped in for, because I'm always fresh off some job doing something. But when I saw the title, I jumped in because I noticed a lot of people were attacking her. And the way she looked and the way she felt, I mean, the energy I felt from the way she looked, and I didn't watch the video, I only saw the picture. I've been there before. And so them attacking her felt like they were attacking me.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if people
That's
do that.
deep.
Like,
That's deep, Kai.
I don't know if people do that. Like,
Mm-hmm.
she looks like me. If I put a bonnet on and put my glasses on and put on the same black color shirt, she looks like me to me. And her uncomfortableness while she was sitting next to this man who's been so-called helping women, I feel in my soul the only way a man like him can help or say this guy is this way and this guy is that way is because he's before been that guy. How else can you give somebody advice on a certain type of guy if you're not that type of guy? You've been that guy before. You can't give advice just like what Tina just told me. For me to be a good behavioral therapist, I had to go through some behavioral things. And it's true. I had to go through to get to. So now that I've advanced to, I can now reach back and say, hey, sweetheart, you don't have to do that. Mm-hmm. Or this is a better choice. Or let me show you what happened to me when I did that. Or anything. But you don't have to walk through the fire because I did that already. But when they kept, it was black women attacking this woman. Why she get out there with her hair looking like that? Because that's what she did. Maybe she's comfortable enough in her own skin without makeup on, without a $300 glued down wig or whatever, that she could do that. Mm-hmm. I don't dress up a lot anymore. I used to wear name brand underwear because that's what I felt I needed to do to be seen. I don't even like being seen. I like to be the person in the back of the room watching everybody else. I'm comfortable there. Does that mean I have low self-esteem or that I'm antisocial? No. I like to watch people. It's just, it's a thing. I like to watch other people. It's just a thing for me. So
you know what, Kai? Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry. I don't want to cut you off, but you said something. And I think basically what you are saying is that until you work on yourself, you're not going to be able to really give those pieces away that you were talking about. If I'm understanding this correctly, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it has to be, self-preservation and reflection and work in order for you to even commit to being with someone wholeheartedly. Mm-hmm. And
exactly. Otherwise, you just ripping your paper apart, and you're gonna be in a million pieces. But the million pieces aren't even gonna be with you. You're just gonna be a quarter-inch piece of a piece of paper. Like, where did all the pieces go? Now you're just a piece. You're a piece of what could have been a whole sheet, and now you have to find somebody that's willing to help you put your pieces back together. And sometimes other people have so many pieces given away from themselves that they don't know how to do that. Mm-hmm. And so you have all these marriages or relationships that are a bunch of people that are pieces of people trying to be whole with one another, but they're not. Mm-hmm. And so we have all these quarrels and we have all these relationship issues because people don't heal themselves first. They're too busy trying to be seen. They're too busy trying to be heard. And sometimes you have to be the Kai in the room. You have to sit back, shut up, figure out what's going on with you before you can say something or be seen. You just be quiet sometimes. What's that thing they say in the Bible? Be still. My grandma used to tell me that all the time. She's like, you're doing too much, you're buying too much, you're showing too much, you need to be still. I didn't learn be still, like really be still, until a week after she died. Mm-hmm. I didn't learn it. I didn't know what she meant. I didn't know she meant like be still, not don't keep moving, but a whole different type of be still is what she was trying to instill in me, and I didn't get it. Mm-hmm. My name is Kai, and I'm done talking.
Kai, thank you for all of that shared. That was amazing. I really love how you have blossomed. I know I said that already, but I really do mean it. And this is why, while you're speaking, I'm not interrupting, because I want you to be that vocal. You love the background, that's fine. We all play a position. But when it comes to you being on stage and you expressing yourself, I just love how you deliver. And you speak with authority. And I love that. So continue keeping up the good work. And at this time, if you're just coming to the stage and into the room, I go by the name of Schneiding, the Millennial Mom Money Expert. I host this Millennial Moms and Money Club. But tonight, of course, I've opened it up to the brothers because I want the fellas to have a voice and speak, okay? The reason why I want to hear men's perspectives is because of this whole quote unquote Mr. Derek Jackson issue, situation, relationship expert, and now he has been exposed. Someone exposed him, so now he came out with a real video, a whole Kobe Bryant type of video with him and his wife. So it opened up the conversation for tonight, saying how cheating creates chaos in a household and also how it affects people's finances in a household. Because now, not only do you have money the money that's supposed to be coming to this household is being divided with a side piece, divided with another mistress, divided so many different ways because you want to go out and play around. And now the money's being split 3 and 4 ways. So without further ado, I would like to introduce KJ. I do see a connection with somebody else on the stage. So, so I kind of put 2 and 2 together. I figured it out. But KJ, you have the floor.
I appreciate it. Thank you. So, me and my wife, Raven, we actually went through something very similar. It's hard to say it's the exact same thing. Their situation is slightly different, and roles were a little bit reversed. But, to answer the main point of how cheating creates chaos, I like how Kai said, referring back to what a couple of the pastors have said as far as starting off with a clean slate. Now, we go into a relationship, and we have let's say our list of things that are important within our relationship between us and our spouse, and we have that on that piece of paper. And when we have one spouse step out and do something with another person outside of the relationship, whether it be giving out time, whether it be giving out their emotions or even themselves physically, what that in turn is, it's like a person reaching across and ripping up your paper of everything that you. And from there, what happens to create the chaos, in most cases, the logical thing that we should do and that we look back on, with hindsight being 2020, is to start over with a new sheet, start clean, rebuild ourselves, whether you decide to stay with that person or whether you decide to move on. But most of the time what we do is we try to pick up the pieces and we try to get tape, get glue and put it back together. And whether you decide to stay or if you decide to move on, what happens is you start to take that on to another person, or you leave that bitterness within the relationship. And it creates chaos. It creates even more mistrust than what you had before. Even if that person comes clean, or even if you just find out on your own, it builds it up more instead of tearing down the anguish that is trying to put itself between you and your spouse, or even just you and the better side of yourself if you try to move on alone. And it creates that chaos, whether it be within your own personal life or between that relationship, and especially if kids are involved. I think that's why I really feel for their situation, especially me and my wife's. Ours happened early on in our marriage before we had any children involved. But I think we a lot of times underestimate the chaos that we bring into a child's life and into their emotions when they're around that and they feel that and they see that, whether they speak on it or not. A child, I think, is very timid to speak up, but they feel so much on the emotional side because of the obvious connection that they have with the parents. So, it creates chaos in them, mistrust in them, roots of bitterness that they may not recognize until they are an adult, obviously, but, it leads into issues that they have of not feeling like I can give myself to somebody else later on, whether it be in a friendship, a business relationship, anything like that. And Schneiding, also to touch on what you said, even with the finances, that when you take away trust, obviously you have to say, okay, I need to keep something on the side. I need to have a burner account, whatever it may be, because I don't know what this person made. And you know, to rebuild that trust is, you know, that's a whole nother component that I think a lot of people, you know, don't recognize as separate from just forgiveness. You know, regardless within a relationship, no matter what happens, forgiveness needs to be had. You know, even from a biblical standpoint, we need to forgive to be able to move on. We need to forgive just as God forgives us. That may not mean that you need to stay. That can still mean that you move on. But without that forgiveness, you are, once again, picking up the pieces that have already been torn, are laying out on the floor, and you're trying to piece that back together, and that's not what you're supposed to do. We forgive so that we can rebuild ourselves. And then if we decide to stay, you try to rebuild that trust and that ability to trust further than what it was before. So my name is KJ, and I'm done speaking. Thank you, guys.
Wow,
KJ, that
KJ.
looks awesome.
Thank you.
Wow, KJ, thank you so much for sharing with us. And that goes to my second part of the question. After cheating has been done, how do you feel? And how did you guys rebuild your marriage, your foundation? How was the structure, if I may ask?
So, you know, I had to do like how Kai said, you know, we need to go directly to God during the middle of the chaos. And, you know, obviously I think we all are given our time to grieve. You know, we were both very young during that time when it happened. I was not very mature in the way that I understood how to, you know, alleviate my emotions that I was feeling. As a young man, all I knew was either very, very happy or very, very angry. So I went through my different points, but once I was finally able to calm myself down, I can't think of a Sunday that I was not in church, whether it be by myself, whether it be with my mother and my father-in-law, my mother and my father. And we tried to, you know, obviously we wanted to handle that between ourselves. We didn't want outside noise involved in it. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, I was dealing with it just between me and God, but first and foremost, I had to go to him because that was something I had not experienced, obviously, before, not in a marriage. And so it was something that I had to first and foremost try to go to God for. Secondly, I had to say, okay, if I'm going to forgive, you know, how am I going to do this the proper way? And I think a part of me at first wanted to forgive enough to move forward, but not enough to, you know, let it in the past. And that was something I had to learn as well, that if we move on, it goes back to starting with a clean slate. Mm-hmm. You know, obviously, yes, it would be ignorant for us to just say we're just going to give that trust right back out right away without something being shown. Mm-hmm. But, you know, after we went through our steps and I saw that the changes that she was trying to make to show me that she was a changed person, you know, that was, from there, it made it a lot easier to say, okay, look, if I say I'm going to forgive you, I have to give you an opportunity to rebuild that trust. I can't say I forgive you, but still hold that against you to make sure, okay, I'm keeping the wall up so your trust can only go up to a certain glass ceiling and I'm not letting it above that. And I thank God that I did, because our marriage right now is stronger than what it ever has been. And so, you know, those were some of the steps that we took starting out.
And as the person who, you know, cheated, I really had to let him feel everything that I had to allow him to go through what he went through. You know, I think that that's something that a lot of people are kind of missing when it comes to Derek. He's not showing like any emotion. He's not showing, you know, in the video, it doesn't seem like he's sincere. And
because
like
he's
Kai
not.
said, you know, when you, like Kai said, you know, when I look at her, I see me. Mm-hmm. And that's powerful, because I mean, I think that's where a lot of people are coming from, you know. So if they're saying that they're gonna, you know, work it out, people are looking for that emotion in him. And I think as a cheater, like I said, I had to allow him to go through that and to tell me, you know, what he wanted me to do, you know, what I need, and I had to fix some stuff in me, you know. That selfishness, that pride, all of that, I had to let all of that go. So just to finish that off of what he said.
Thank you guys so much for sharing. Your transparency is really appreciated, because we know with relationships, it's so hard to talk about past infidelities, because it's a trigger. It brings up what happened again. And then, you know, it's just a hard thing to do, a hard thing to talk about. So we really appreciate you guys, opening up to strangers in a sense, but now we're not strangers anymore because now we're going to be following each other and talking. And yeah, so now we're not strangers. But it's so funny to me how this app is so amazing because we all have been connected. We all crave the human connection together. And since we have it here on Clubhouse, I'm very grateful. So thank you guys so much for sharing with us your time. I've had this room open for now the past 3 hours. A lot of people came in and left. And I just want to say, I appreciate every single person who came here, who shared and poured into us. We know that, cheating is not a good thing. Some people have reasons for cheating. It's not acceptable. It's not biblical. Everyone's going through their own mess. No one is perfect, but you got to choose you in hard situations. If you've been in a relationship where you've been emotionally abused and you have a mate that's cheated on you, you got to choose you. Choose your happiness because your joy is non-negotiable. Okay. I don't know if anybody else has some last words before we close out. I'll keep it open for another 2 minutes. Any last words for anyone on the stage before we close out?
Yeah, I'm the talker over here. So
go ahead, Latasha. I love it.
But I just wanted to tell you thank you so much because I had something to do at 8:00 and I completely stepped out and didn't do it. So
I noticed that. I didn't say anything. I was just appreciating you enjoying this conversation.
It was okay. I rescheduled it for tomorrow. But thank you so much for the opportunity, and I'm so glad I was here to just grab and do input. Give my input and just. This has just been an amazing room, and it's a heavy topic.
It really is. It's something that people don't really want to talk about, but I just wanted to give it raw, because it's something that we need to discuss. And I know it's not the norm because I know you've been here with me co-moderating 3 rooms 3 times. So, this is not the norm of our conversations, but I'm really happy you stuck around, to talk with me. So thank you. You're welcome, and thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely, always. So I just pulled up Travis Michelle. How are you? Please, the floor is yours.
Hi, hello everyone. I'm Travis Michelle, and thank you so much for having this space. At first, I've been glancing because I've been doing other things, and I started to come in because we had conversations about this at work, and someone was very upset about it, and I was saying, I understand you're being upset, but why they were upset, I was trying to work it through with them. And in the Black community, when we hold someone at high esteem and they betray us, it cuts deep.
Yes,
and
it does.
This is a young lady who's in her 20s, and I'm older than she is. And she was trying to understand why he didn't have emotion, but more so why his wife was dressed a certain way, why she was talking about God and trying to forgive him. And I stopped her right there because one thing I will not do, because I am a woman empowerment builder and I have had it done to me, and that is crap all over another Black woman and to sit there and not support her. We can't do that. We don't know what's going on behind closed doors. We weren't there. Now, I feel we're giving him so much attention. I want to give her attention.
Yes.
I want to concentrate on her, right? Because I have been in that situation where my husband was 32 and a half years older than me, and he still cheated on me. I was his third wife. He came and she lasted through all of the marriages thinking she was going to be number 3. And people looked at me as though I did something wrong because I chose to stay. So we're already going through our own feelings and self-doubt. And now people are also adding on and trolling her. No, I think as Black women, we need to stop that. And so thank you for giving the opportunity to say that out loud. I don't want to give him attention. He has something to deal with. he made a choice. No one forced him.
Absolutely.
That was his choice. Everybody has a reason for cheating. You absolutely do.
He made a choice 4 times. He made a choice 4 times.
It was more than 4. Let's be real.
Well, yeah, you know what I mean. He admitted to 4.
Let's be real, okay? 4 times that he may have gotten caught, or 4 times that he said to his wife. But the real deal is when a man cheats, okay, it's a lot of times that you didn't know about and he's not going to admit to because you're not there.
Well, that's when anybody cheats.
Right.
When anybody cheats.
As a registered nurse also, I mean, I'm a number 1 international author, but I'm also a registered nurse on my day job. And how painful I have had to not share with a woman who had genital warts because her husband was cheating on her.
Sad.
And I couldn't tell her. And the doctors couldn't tell her. So we're looking at, oh, he cheated. No. I look at it a lot stronger because he put her life in danger, her health in danger. Because we know he wasn't wearing a condom with his wife, and he probably wasn't wearing one with other people either. So now he doesn't care about himself, but he claims he loves her, but he doesn't care about her either. And that's why I said I'm praying for her, and I really want to just like virtual hug her and all of the women in here who have been hurt. And when you do that work for yourself, that's when the healing starts. She has to go through her own anger and everything. And I want her to heal so that she doesn't become bitter, because this is how women, right? We become so bitter. He cheated on me. And then we make it seem like all men gonna do that. And that's not the case. So thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to speak. I'm Travis Michelle. I'm done talking.
Hi, Travis Michelle. Thank you.
You missed what I said, and I think it would have been beneficial for you. But I said that looking at her sitting there uncomfortable, I didn't watch the video, I only seen the image, the picture. She looked like me, but here are all these other women that look like her, who look like me, saying, why isn't her hair done? Why isn't this? And my first thought was maybe she's comfortable enough with herself not to get dolled up in front of the camera to face the facts or whatever she was thinking or feeling. Like, why are we attacking her physical attributes and not this guy who professed to be who he professed to be? You know, I've been on both ends of the spectrum. I've been the cheater and I've been the cheated, right? So I know how it feels on both ends. Neither end felt good. Both ends are very painful. So let nobody tell you the lie. Like, both ends are very painful. And it's the pain that you're going through that makes you do it in the first place. It's something that you haven't found within yourself. It's something wrong with your sheet of paper. Like, clearly my sheet of paper was all recycled dollar store paper or something. And I, like you said, KJ, taped it all back up and decided I wanted to rip it up again. But it's a storm that you're going through within yourself that makes you even want to hurt somebody else. Because when you cheat, you know you're going to hurt them if they find out. The goal is to not let them find out. When you're getting cheated on, you say you want the truth, but honestly, you don't.
You really don't.
Like, I wanted the truth. I asked for the truth. I got the truth. But when I got the truth, I didn't really want all that. I didn't want to know about extra kids being made while I was deployed. I didn't want to know about all these other women that he had been with while I was deployed. And that was his reason for not wanting to go this first time ever with me. Because usually, as a spouse, with what I was doing and where I was going, he was going with. All of a sudden, you want to stay in Michigan? Why? Like, Michigan is terrible. It's cold. Don't you want to go to Dubai? Like, who turns down a trip to Dubai?
I know I wouldn't.
Like, right there. That should have been a red flag, but for me, I was like, okay, we'll stay home. I'll be back in 3 months. You know, the gullible me was like, okay, you know, maybe you just want to stay home and hang out with your friends and be with family. And like KJ and Raven said, I was young. However, my age and my maturity level were not at the same. They weren't the same. So when he cheated on me, I was like, I ain't getting a divorce. I'll just cheat back. It'll make me feel better. My name is Kai, and I'm done talking.
Girl,
Yeah,
okay,
and
let me
what-
say this really quick. Oh,
Sorry.
okay. Sorry, let me just say this really quick. That's another reason why women cheat. One is definitely for revenge because you're like, okay, here I am bending over backwards for you, sucker. And then you go out and you do this to me? Who? Me? And the women are like, oh no, you're gonna feel what I feel. And that's how women, the wives or the spouse, they cheat back. It really hurts. But a man don't know how much it hurts until a wife does it back. And that's when they're like, oh, I can't forgive this, or I don't want to stay with you. Especially when children are involved too, it creates chaos. So yeah.
So much chaos. I don't think people understand. I didn't have children, but he had 2 children already.
Okay.
And they became my children. And so when I divorced him, I had to divorce the kids too.
I'm sure that's
My
sad.
daughter wasn't born yet. And it was kind of hard. Like, so I don't get to see them no more? Like, at all? So for a minute, I was sending them birthday gifts in the mail because I couldn't see them. You know, because they had become a part of me. I was married for 6 years. My daughter was conceived in the 6th year of my marriage during my divorce process.
Oh my
So
gosh. That's
those
sad.
kids were my kids. Like, I seen them every week, every holiday. You know, we did family vacations to Disney World like 3 times during our marriage. Those was my kids. And I have to break up with them too. Like, wow.
Wow. Yeah.
I don't think people actually think that far into it. Even if they're your kids together or not your kids together, you're divorcing the person, the family, and the kids all at the same time.
Well, okay.
Yeah,
Okay, go ahead.
This is Travis Michelle speaking. Yeah, it is tough because when I was cheated on by my husband, and we then, I decided that was it. After this time, she was supposed to have been gone in the beginning, and then, clearly throughout our marriage, she wasn't. When I made a decision to leave, so while we're still living together and going through the divorce, he's taken our children to see this mistress. So now I'm trying to explain to my children who this person is. And he's lying to them about who she is. And so I had to stop. One, I have a relationship with God. And I had to sit there and spend a little time with myself. And I think that's what we don't do, because it would have been so easy. Like, I'm just going to do revenge. It was going to hurt me. And I think we have to preserve our sanity and our peace at all costs. And we have to be selfish. We have to put ourselves first. You cannot be on a plane and put the oxygen on everybody else, because either you both will pass out or you both on. So you have to put the oxygen on yourself. Spend that time getting to know who you are so you don't bleed all over everybody else, so that you don't hurt everybody else around you. And then you forgive yourself.
Yes.
Because a lot of times I had to forgive myself for staying in the marriage. Why was I a fool when this man cheated on me and I stayed?
Okay, come on
So
now.
all that anger and bitterness comes out. So I had to forgive Travis Michelle. That, you know what? Okay, you did stay. You can't undo what happened. But now you are worthy. So you have to forgive yourself so that I could then forgive him. Otherwise, I'm still giving him all my power. And when you are healing, you have to have all your power. You have to take that back. You have to rebirth it out of your gut, because it's been pushed down by trauma, by betrayal, by hurt. So you have to learn how to nurture that and birth it again. I'm Travis Michelle, and I'm done talking.
Travis, you and KJ and me, we basically said the same thing. Are we like related or something? My God. I said the sheet of paper, KJ came back with the closing on that, and you said the part about the plane. You know, the stewardess tells you to put yours on first. She tells you that. She said, hey, put yours on first. Then you reach over to the person next to you and you help them put theirs on. So that. Yes.
Amen. Well, I appreciate all of your shares. Travis, Michelle, thank you for being the last person on the stage to grace the stage tonight. I am so excited that you guys decided to spend your time here with me. We've been on for 3 hours. I do have to close this room down. And I just hope that you guys will do me the honor and continue to come back to this room. I host this room every Thursday at 7 o'clock, 7 p.m. Eastern. I'm on the East Coast, guys. And I hope you guys can come back, share. I always have great topics for us to discuss, debate, discuss again. And I hope you guys come back and follow this club. Tell your friends about it. And next time, let's have some more fun. I'm your host, Schneidine, the Millennial Mom Money Expert. If you haven't already, please click the link in my bio and also take a look at my YouTube channel, subscribe, like, comment. And for those of you that don't know, I am hosting the 6-week Get Out of the Red and Into the Black. I'm not sure where she went.
What happened to you?
That's so funny. That has been happening. That happened before. Thank you. I appreciate that. Yes. I was saying, for those of you that don't know, I am a financial coach. I teach people how to get out of debt and improve in their finances. If you haven't already, I'm having a 6-week Get Out of the Red and Into the Black program. It's starting Wednesday, April 14th. And I'm only accepting the first 100 participants to come on. And that way I will be showing you guys all the tips on savings and budgeting, ETF stock investing for beginners, and building business credit while having bad personal credit. Slide into my DM and say, hey girl, I'm interested, and then we'll get the process going for you. I'm so excited to teach you what I know, and let's continue to build so you could get out of debt. I'm Schneidine. Oh, I see Carlotta came back, so I'm gonna give you an opportunity to have the floor because I know you came back and forth and you're having your own stuff. So quickly, Carlotta, you have the floor.
Well, thank you so much, Nadine, for inviting me up. Thank you for this space and this room. You're so incredible. Shout out to my girl Natasha, who actually paid me because I'm very busy and I had to, pull back a minute to do my show, The Heart of the Matter. But I'm here now, and so listen. I hope everybody.
Thank you for coming. Good night.